this year, right now, it's like 48.
$15,000 a year.
Right around $9,000 for my first investment.
I'm averaging closer to $800 to $1,000 a day.
So we literally just started with each putting in $500.
So about $1,500 just to get started.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started in the painting business.
Painting came about as a college summertime job my junior year. The previous 2 summers, I worked in a factory. It was torture, kind of felt like I was imprisoned, and the idea of having more freedom with painting, preferably being outside, was appealing to me.
So what led you to become an entrepreneur?
So I graduated college with an art degree, and I promptly did nothing with it. I didn't know how to translate it into a career. I was offered my boss's job at the painting company I was previously working for, and immediately I knew I didn't want his position, bossing people around, manager style. So about to turn 25, I felt like I had a quarter-century life crisis and decided to quit 1 week's notice and broke off to do my own thing.
My name's Eric Brewski. Our business is Lumberjill's Premium Firewood, and we got started about 2 years ago. I've got 3 young daughters that I wanted to start a little gritty family business to teach them about hard work, and had a few chainsaws in a truck. I had some property with trees on it that I had access to, and that's how we started.
So my name is Jamie Hallman. I'm Hallman Window Washing. I got started about 5 years ago as a part-time business, kind of off the fly off my hat here. Me and the wife were trying to pay stuff off, and I was working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, just wasn't cutting it. She was in school, so I decided after her grandparents asked me to clean their windows, I was like, people actually pay for this, so I decided to go for it, and slowly each year I let the company grow organically, and here we are.
My name's Ashton Haland. I'm co-owner of Short Kings Moving Company.
And I'm Keegan Mills. I'm the other owner. And we founded Short Kings Moving Company in July of last year, and kind of just came as an idea. We both worked in the moving industry for a while, and we figured, why not do this on our own? We can help some people out, make some money.
So I always wanted to own my own business, and I've loved helping people. And when COVID hit, I just got a job as a mover at another company. Did that, liked it, but kind of just didn't like how they ran things there, wanted to do it on my own. So we talked, got into it, and it's been great. Love helping people. I mean, it can be a challenging process, but it can also be a fun process. If it's a first-time home buyer, they're excited to get into their new house. So that's awesome. Love just guiding them through that moving process.
On top of that, it wasn't easy starting out. Obviously, we're 2 college students, so we had to raise capital. Started renting trucks. We were able to acquire our own equipment and stuff, and eventually grew.
My name is Ryan Nestor. My business name is Fab Lab LLC. How I got started was I was a mechanic for about 15 years, and I did enjoy that to an extent, but I found welding and fabrication a lot more fun. I was way more passionate about that, so I kind of fell into gathering equipment and just looking for work in that realm. So about a year ago, I went full on by myself, self-employed, just going towards my passion and towards my dream of doing just fabrication full time.
What were some of the things that you needed to get to start your business?
I would say in this industry, a lot of it is equipment is really expensive. So it's really hard to start out with something that's going to give you a good quality product in the end. When you're starting out, most people don't have a ton of money to throw at it. So just slowly building up, better equipment and doing the best work you can do with what you have. That's the hardest thing is equipment. And I guess finding the work, right? There's a lot of companies out there doing what I do, and they do it on a way bigger scale. So trying to tap into that market can be a little bit tough. Just getting your name out there, advertising, that seems to be working pretty well.
To me, being a solo operator, residential is more profitable. I love working with people. I love meeting people. I try to really become personal with them within the first 5 minutes, and it creates a more comfortable experience for them. I think experience is, clean windows is the easy part, and they don't even have to be super, super clean. If you create a good experience for the client, they'll call you back every time. And that's what I try to do and try to relate to them within the first 5 or 10 minutes to create a really good bond. Like I said, I love people. I'm trying to get more into commercial work. Being in Michigan, we're kind of seasonal. It kind of dies off when the snow flies.
So I like to mow it first, to be honest with you, just to see how long it takes. Like if I can mow a lawn in like 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, then that's just how I take a lot of, like weed whipping is another big thing. If there's a lot of weed whipping, a lot of poles or a lot of just beds that go around and a lot of other stuff that go around, I charge a lot more for that because mowing is a lot easier than weed whipping and edging. So I think that's really comes down to is weed whipping is the biggest thing for me.
So are you charging like per time?
I want to charge per time, but I'm still trying to figure that out. So I just charge like per month for everybody for 4 cuts. So every 4 cuts, I'll just have them send me a check or have them send it for QuickBooks or whatever. So.
And what is your like price range from like the smallest lawn to like the largest?
So I like to keep everybody under like, or everybody at like $40 a cut, but I'm still slowly getting up there because everybody doesn't want to pay $40 a cut. So if I say $40 a cut, 40 times 4 is like $130 a month is probably like the cheapest I go. But I like to stay around $40 a cut. That just seems like my best where I can actually make revenue for my company.
And is that like standard or?
That's actually, if you look for a small company, that might be standard. I'm not sure, but for like company I used to work for, they charge a lot more than that.
Is that like what you're averaging?
Yep, all my houses are all different, like all different price. But if I'm in like a neighborhood, I like to just have everybody's same price because I'm in the neighborhood and I don't have to use any of my truck gas or anything. So I like to keep it everybody in the same range if they're all right, if all the houses are right together.
Our favorite moves are out of state. Those are super fun for us. We get to, I've never been to Iowa. I got to go to Iowa. I mean, wasn't the most glamorous state, but I've never been there. I got to go there. And it's just fun. You get to hit the road, see different places. Yeah, long distance are super fun to us. But obviously, we'll stay local. We're willing to go anywhere for our clients, basically. So
Definitely local is popular, but like he said, we both like to travel, so we enjoy doing both. And our sizes range, I mean, the other day we literally moved a dresser from the upstairs to the downstairs, and that was it. So, I mean, we have moves of all sizes.
How much did you get for that?
We have a 2-hour minimum at our local move price, or that was an interior move, so 2 hours at $129 an hour.
Yeah, so this is purely just a cash box with a lock here, welded on that we check periodically, and it's been perfect. It's been great.
And you only take cash, like there's no Venmo or anything like that?
There isn't at the moment. I've got a Venmo account that I could, another kind of future state was a little laminated sheet here with a little bit of our story and some Venmo info. But cash is kind of nice because if I'm buying wood or I'm paying for repairs and stuff, I got a lot of folks that prefer cash too, so it's nice to have a little bit. Girls like taking the lock off and seeing how much cash is in the box. They don't really like the concept of money when it's just a Venmo transaction. Like, it doesn't do anything for a little young mind, but like you open it up and you see $100 in bills, it's like, whoa.
Some small projects, it could be like a single accent wall. Those are projects that aren't really going to attract my attention anymore because they're not necessarily worth me showing up for completely unloading. Early on, I could do a project as small as like $200. Anymore, I'm not going to show up for just like a half bath. It's probably going to at least be a bedroom or two. On the larger side, I've done giant exteriors, so projects that take 2.5 weeks. I've got multiple ladders out there. I finally invested in scaffolding, but then that was my final summer of exterior, just realizing one-man crew for a giant exterior is really not ideal, and it's exhausting.
For the exterior one, like how much revenue did that bring in?
I think my largest revenue project would be around $9,000. I've also had an interior project go about that high as well. As I'm getting more experienced and, like I said, more selective with work, I'm working in better homes. The likelihood of me being in a $20,000 home anymore is pretty small. Just in the past month, I've been in 2 different $1 million homes, and obviously that's where the money's at. So if you can build up, start in some rougher homes, and then graduate to the big leagues in a way.
Just to clarify for the audience, is this new homes that are being built, or is this homes that have already been built and they need repainted?
I've done some new construction projects, and while that may sound appealing because it's new and fresh, there's a lot of prep work in those. So my ideal projects are just repaints where it's a nice home, they've got some large rooms, and they're sick of maybe like the dated tan walls and they want to go light gray, white, off-white. Repaints are ideal. And specifically projects where maybe they're selling the home and they're already moved out. There's no furniture. It's going to be one color unified throughout. You can really blast through all the rooms.
Who was like your first customer? How did you start out? Like, how did you get your first tree? How did you sell your first wood?
Yeah, I remember it very clear. A guy named Chad, I had some ash, it was nice and dry. I cut it up. I was doing it out of my driveway, and just put a marketplace ad on, and Chad replied, and big bearded guy, like super cool guy. Like he came to my house and was really excited about the wood that I had produced and was like, man, have you ever read, there's a book that he referenced for me, and he's like, you got a Norwegian wood, it's called. He's like, have you ever read that book? And so he, like, my first customer gave me a big stoke on like, man, there's somebody that's like way excited about some firewood, But then he was like, you got to read that book. It's almost poetic about Scandinavian countries and how they process firewood and how they stack it and history and, the BTU content of all the different types of wood and how they burn. And I'm kind of a science nerd by education and wiring anyway. So I just stuck to that and I was like, this is fun stuff. I like this. So Chad really kind of paved the way for us. So he's bought wood from us 4 or 5 times at this point and comes by once in a while, checks us out. And
my biggest one, I did one indoor like last year. We moved cut down a couple big trees, just removed plants and then planted grass, and we just made it look a lot better than it was. So they had a bunch of stuff in there, a lot of plants and a lot of flowers. So we took all those down and just make it more basic and then put rocks down and just made it look better because it was just a bunch of flowers and it just looked just too much. So we just redesigned it pretty much and just put grass down and rocks, and then we planted another big tree. So that was a pain, but it was always fun.
Tell us how you got your first client and how that got started.
Yeah, so we were mentioning spreading flyers throughout neighborhoods. I want to say after just a couple weeks, I had some calls, some minor like deck staining projects, outside front trim. What really held me over though, when I first broke away from the company, becoming solo, was that they would subcontract me projects. It's a good testament as to why you shouldn't burn bridges in business. Without that, I think it would have been a real slow climb to be completely on my own.
I've never done door-to-door sales. Like I said, because I started so slowly and word spread so quickly, and especially once Facebook happened, Google happened, it was all kind of word of mouth. That was my door-to-door. The people that I did, like the neighbors and stuff, the people that I've cleaned did my door-to-door for me, honestly. I've been thinking about doing what they call 5-arounds. You have a house that you just cleaned, and then before you leave, you just go around the 5 houses around it and hang a tag or set your card out there. But I'm getting to a point now where I'm consistently so booked out, I don't want to market myself as much as I would maybe when I first started.
Pretty much a little bit of everything. And then we added on, painting decks. But we quickly took that off because I wanted just to stick to, I didn't want to spread myself too thin, but we do clean everything exterior, and that's pretty much what we started with in the beginning, and that's where we at right now.
Yeah, so our longest one, we actually, a couple months ago in January, we went out of state to Iowa, and we actually drove out there, loaded 2 trucks up, and drove it back to Grand Rapids. So I think that took 4 or 5 days, but it's pretty eventful too. It was right in the middle of a snowstorm, so.
I wouldn't say the biggest. The most crucial one that I did recently was a kayak rack for inside a trailer. It was all aluminum, so that's just kind of a tedious process to weld all that. It takes a long time. So just designing that to meet the customer's expectations and to make sure it was going to hold up and last.
What are you doing for your advertising? Are you doing any paid advertising? Is it social media, word of mouth?
Word of mouth. Almost everybody I talk to, I try to give a business card to. Business cards are cheap and they might throw them away, they might lose them, you don't know, but it's worth a shot. Putting my logos on my vehicles has helped a little bit. And then social media has been the biggest one for me. I make Facebook ads, pay for those. Those do okay. You can kind of spend a lot of money and not really get a lot out of it though, so you got to be careful. But social media, and that's usually the best in the area, I think.
So for advertising, we started doing postcards too. That works good. Yard signs, like you mentioned. We door knock. That's huge. Meeting the customer and them seeing that we're younger and eager to help them move. They like that. They like that we're the owners and we're the ones doing the moving. So we also do Facebook ads, social media, word of mouth.
How much do you guys think you spend monthly on advertising?
I don't know. We definitely picked up in the last 2 months, and we've also gotten a lot more moves because of that. A couple grand a month, maybe.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, we're picking up though, for sure.
Do you think there has been any leads from that, or which one do you prefer doing?
I think our most successful way of advertising has been door knocking and the yard signs for sure. Like I said, door knocking, people love meeting you and seeing what they're getting into before they just see something online.
We started door knocking probably like 3 months after we got the business going. So we probably got our first 8 to 10 moves just from signs. So that was great. And then we thought of door knocking. We did that. One I think of in particular is I door knocked someone. had a good conversation with them. And then from that one person we door knocked, we got like 3 other moves from them. So that was awesome.
We do a little bit of Facebook advertising. We're on Google. So we have a Facebook page, we got a Google page, Yelp page. We're on Nextdoor. When I first started off, we were on Thumbtack, word of mouth, obviously. What brought us the most business was our Google page. Because when I started this business, I noticed that a lot of people, a lot of companies, there wasn't a lot of pressure washing companies on Google. And the ones that were on Google, they didn't have many reviews and there were some bad reviews. So I looked at that and I figured, I probably could, kind of take over that portion of the market. And I pretty much did. I mean, we got 161 5-star Google reviews. And pretty much most of our business in the beginning came from Google, like 95% of the calls, because we always ask, how did you hear about us? And they say Google.
And when you say Google, is that paid ads? Or?
No, we tried some paid ads and it just didn't work. We've hired a few companies to, kind of like do the back end work on that. And they make promises, but, I really didn't see much results. So I don't really do much ads at all, to be honest.
I've been gifted some things, but I haven't spent a whole lot of money on advertising. Like I said, a lot of my stuff is word of mouth. Facebook, Google has been huge, like it is for any home-based service business, as long as I got the reviews to back them. But I don't spend really any money. As I grow, if I want to add folks and add people to my crews, I will have to start because then I got to find them work. But as of right now, I don't spend really any money on advertising.
What kind of content do you try to post? Like, what do you think is interesting, or what do you think provides value?
Yeah, people love like satisfaction videos, I'm getting better at it, but like clean before and after shots, videos of squeegees, colorful videos, music, the whole nine, like just trying to create, just something that they're like, wow, that's a major difference. I think that helps a ton. And I said I didn't do any advertising, but clearly I did a little bit of advertising on my van. I think that helps tremendously, is getting a good image, but that's about as far as I went.
This was a great investment. You're parked outside. Even on indoor projects, you obviously have like the billboard visibility. All the neighbors know who's in town and they can get a hold of you.
And has this brought you business, like just from driving around, do you think?
Definitely has. I'll get texts or voicemails. People will say, I was just behind you on the road. And then I always panic. I'm like, uh-oh, how was I driving? It's like, I'm the only employee. I've always joked that if someone called to report bad driving, I would say that's like my new employee, John, but I'm the only one. So it's definitely gotten me a lot of business. It was only like a $300 investment in terms of getting the vinyl installed. So super affordable.
And can you tell us a little bit about how you advertise your business outside of this, and any other like marketing, social media tips that you do to get customers?
Yeah, definitely. So that's evolved over time. I started off with makeshift, like amateur flyers. When I first quit the job with the larger company, went solo, I just had like a generic template I used online. It was like a blue cheesy flyer. I tried to find one, but I couldn't. Had a sunshine on it. And then I would literally stuff it in mailboxes. So either jogging, rollerblading, hanging my arm out the van window, stuffing mailboxes. That eventually evolved to going through the post office. They have direct mailing where on their website you can select specific neighborhoods and it will show you the actual income of that neighborhood, and you drop your stacks of flyers off and they'll deliver them for you. That's pretty pricey though, because you're paying for the cost of the flyers, and then it's these days, because this was a while ago, it's probably at least $0.25 per flyer for them to deliver. So if you're doing hundreds or thousands of flyers, that's going to add up.
I didn't know that existed. That's crazy.
I was surprised to find out about it too, especially when I'd put like years into manually delivering all the flyers. It was rewarding, like in an afternoon getting 300 out there and feeling like you conquered a neighborhood, but you're spreading a blanket on a community that maybe no one actually wants painting. So maybe 300 flyers go out and you get 2 phone calls. I eventually evolved to, we can shift back over this way, yard signs. This will go any project I'm working on in the front yard, right into the lawn, and then I decided I'm gonna go to busy intersections and just sprinkle these around town. They can get yanked in like a day or linger for months. I eventually realized if I get the little giant ladder out and get it 12 feet up on a telephone pole, not many people are going to bother getting up there. Like, competitors are only so ambitious. So this was a good few years of advertising after flyers. I couldn't find that amateur flyer I mentioned, but this is a look at my more professional version. And I haven't sent any of these out in years. These were how I went for the longest time.
And how much do these cost, like the print?
So again, this was years ago, but if you're getting hundreds or thousands made at a time, A single flyer comes down to pennies. It's all about buying in bulk. These, I want to say, if you buy 100 at a time, they could be like maybe $13. Again, I'm a little cloudy on that because I've really pulled back on advertising for quite a few years now. Word of mouth, if you can get established, is huge. Everyone trusts their friends recommending services. Like, your vehicle's already been test driven in a way. The final marketing that I've like entirely gone to, not surprisingly, online ads. So Facebook ads and then Google ads. That's been huge. Once you can actually pour money into a budget and you're specifically targeting areas to go to people that have searched for painting rather than blanketing a whole neighborhood.
And how much do you think you spend a month on that?
Right now, I've got it dialed down to zero because I'm only painting part-time. But a few years ago, in the height of it, I could spend maybe $300 a week on ads. One thing I really loved about it is if you decide like you're burnt out, I don't want to work the next few weeks, you can just quickly, with a couple clicks, turn all your ads off, and then the phone's going to mostly stop ringing. So a lot of control there. Some people are intimidated by Google ads, but it's if you have a halfway decent website and some Google reviews, it's really the way to go.
I do on Facebook, so I have Facebook, and then I'm trying to work on Google right now, like the Google, so people can search me, but it's kind of being a little pain right now, but we're getting to it. So Facebook is my main one, and I have an Instagram too. For Three Sons Lawn Care would be, if you guys look that up, and it should be on Facebook and everything. So.
Are you spending money on advertising apart from like business cards, or is it just like very like word of mouth?
Yeah, word of mouth is the biggest thing. But I'm trying to figure out on Facebook, they have like this, they can like boost the post on it, but it never, and it's like I'll have the area Grand Rapids or whatever, but then I get people from like Louisiana and like Texas and everything. So I'm trying to. It's weird. It won't let me just, like it says it does. Like it says that I'm in the Grand Rapids area, but always have more people from out of state than I do actually in the state. So word of mouth is probably the biggest thing.
Sure, so we've got a roadside stand, so we do have some of the, I guess, more traditional, just drive by and see the product for sale. We do market ourselves on Facebook Marketplace. That is so powerful that I have to take that off a lot of times because I'm just, when it's on, it's more like this time of year, it's more demand than I can come up with in terms of delivering wood as a side business. So that's super strong, but I just kind of toggle it as I need to move product. And then a lot of word of mouth and repeat customers as you get to know folks and do a good job. We've got a lot of subdivisions. We brought wood to one person, 2 months later, 3 of their neighbors want some. And then like this year 2 has been cool. I've got some folks in subdivisions that kind of corral the neighbors and say, hey, bring us your big dump truck, your dump trailer full. I've got 4 neighbors that want firewood, and it's easy. You bring one big supply and you're just doing 3 houses in a row. So those are kind of cool to see.
What are some of the expenses that come with landscaping and lawn mowing?
The expensives would be, gas is probably the main thing now, just because the gas is pretty expensive now, definitely for mowing. But with landscaping, like if you're doing like bark beds and stuff, bark is expensive, rock's expensive, like weed whip string, edger blades, mower blades. I think that's about it for my small business right now. But yeah, gas is the main expenses for me right now. So
How many gallons do you think you go through?
a week I don't know how many gallons, but I probably spend at least $200 almost every week and a half on gas, I would say, for my mower and my truck. So
I would say our biggest expense is basically anything that has to do with the truck, whether it's gas, maintenance on it, and our biggest one is insurance for the truck. That was, especially since we're younger, we haven't been driving that long. It's more of a risk for the insurance company. So yeah, that was a big bill to pay.
On top of that, insurance-wise, liability, we have a $1 million insurance. So basically, we have to have enough liability to go into people's houses and obviously protect their belongings. So that's pretty pricey. But other than that, it varies going from moving equipment. So
the chemicals that we use, the soaps and everything, that's like the main expense. Pretty much once you got your equipment, if you take care of it, I mean, it'll last you, years. We spent, $5,000 on our biggest pressure washer. This is our 4th year with it. It's still running strong. We do oil changes on it and everything, take care of it. So, I mean, it's made us, a lot of money. So.
So one thing to keep in mind when you're looking into starting a business of this nature, of repairing things, is you need to have good liability insurance. You need to have a little bit of capital set aside for those unexpected things, and a good place to do the work in. What I see a lot is people start a business and they don't plan for insurance. They don't plan for their workman's comp. They don't plan for health insurance. You know, when you go self-employed, when you go out on your own, that is all you. You have to take care of all of that. And before you know it, you have $1,000 a month in just money going out for health insurance, you know, business insurance. And then, you know, you want to advertise and you want to do shirts and hats, and that all costs money. And that money's got to come from somewhere. So make sure that you do your research in the market to make sure you're charging enough.
So you've got a fair bit of maintenance expense. You've got chainsaws that you're always sharpening chains on. They do break from time to time. So saws, fuel and oil in your saws, and maintenance. Chain sharpening, tires on trailers do, you know, go flat sometimes. Maintenance on a log splitter, but most of the maintenance cost is pretty low, and your biggest expenses are fuel. You know, fuel in the splitter, fuel in the pickup truck.
Do you know how much that might be per month?
Probably a couple $100 a month in expense cost. Again, most of that, 80% of that being gas, depending on how many deliveries we're doing.
General overhead is pretty low. I mentioned the liability insurance, that's $500 a year. It'll be easier if I tell you yearly rather than monthly. $500 for liability, measly $25 for LLC. Other main ones would be, I think, $125 a year for my Squarespace website, $150 for a work phone, which rings through my actual cell phone, but to have the local area code, I have 2 numbers on my cell phone. Other than that, my expenses are really paint and advertising. Paint is pretty minimal per project, and then just however much I want to advertise at a given time.
And you mentioned the website. Are people booking through the website, or are they calling you to book? Like, how do you schedule these jobs?
I'm not fancy enough to have it set up so I can book through the website. So because I started as a college student, I acquired equipment as I went, a few brushes here, rollers there. But really, I'd say like a few $100s is more than plenty to get started. If you're going to invest in like an actual paint sprayer, that's going to be pricey, ladder up top. But just like a step ladder and that stuff, a few $100s, you can really get rolling.
So it's really very low overhead, honestly, because of the way I clean the windows. I use like Dawn and a little bit of Crazy Larry's Glide on my interiors. But in regards to like massive overhead, I mean, the van was a pretty big investment, and so was my machine. But like reoccurring, there's not a ton. I got to buy filters for my machine monthly, but other than that, everything, once you invest into it, as long as you take care of it, will last you 10, 15 years.
Can you share how much the new machine costs?
Yeah, so this machine that I have in here is cost me around, is 2 sides of it. So the fill and go that I have in here, so this system is from Tucker. Great supplier for window cleaners. Check them out. Sean, shout out. That was about $4,000. This machine, this is my pure water maker right here. This cost also around $3,500 to $4,000. But like I said, I let the company grow organically, so I let the company's money use that. I never took out any loans. I never did anything like that. You just got to be smart with it, you know. And that's one of the biggest reasons I worked full time for my first 3 years of doing this, so the company can grow organically. There's been so many guys and gals out there that will throw all their eggs in one basket and fail within 3 years. So I think a big part of it is just pacing yourself and not expecting 100% within the first year.
What are 3 tips of advice that you have for other entrepreneurs?
Just stay calm, just work the process, and just make sure your customers are happy, and just be happy with your work. You just love what you do. You can't just go into something that you don't love to do. If you're going into something you don't love to do and you're starting a business and you invest a lot of money into it and you don't even like to do it, it's not really worth your time. So I would just say the biggest thing, you really want to love what you do.
So entrepreneurs in general, you know, find something that you don't mind really putting a lot of time and effort into. You got to love the core of the business first, and I think following that allows you to be successful in it. So I love being outside. I love running a saw. I love the smell of, you know, freshly cut oak and cherry firewood. So to me, it's more peaceful time than anything. I guess a second tip would be invest in quality equipment, quality tools. You know, if I have a chainsaw that breaks or a splitter that breaks and I have 2 hours to work on a given day, that kind of, you know, a big hold on what I wanted to get done that day. So buying for example, I've got a dump trailer that's galvanized instead of painted. It's a lot more expensive, but that finish should never rust over time or take a lot longer. Buying quality chainsaws, you know, your critical components of your business. You know, I kind of have this buy once, cry once philosophy. Like, Spend the money, buy it one time, buy the best stuff you can, and you'll always be happy you did.
What I learned early on is to network. That's been a big, massive influence on my business. Like I said, I started the business on Facebook and it just grew from there. You know, you do a great job. Once I got on Google, it really catapulted me. Once I got the reviews, I just hit over 100 5-star reviews on Google, and that has just really catapulted me. Get in your network groups on Facebook, learn other businesses, go to their networking group functions, and really just go after that. And I mean, you want your name to be the first one to come up whenever people ask for your specific type of business that you offer. And then the last one is probably just don't be afraid to invest. I mean, I was very scared early on to, put in that $2,500 for that machine, but that machine literally made my business catapult 10 times. It got me to where I want to be per hour. It keeps me safe on the ground, and it pays for itself very quickly. So whatever you're in, just don't be afraid to invest and look the part.
Being aware of your skill set. So if you decide tomorrow that you want to be a painter, don't try to get into $1 million neighborhood and completely wreck the house. Know your abilities. If you own your property or if your landlord's cool with it, practice at your place. Working, it's called, when you're painting with the brush, that's cutting in. If you can practice painting the wall where it intersects with the ceiling, that's how you can tell a painter's skill level, how straight that cut line is. Just starting on lower level projects, building up. One thing I've kept in mind with painting, I feel like reputation is everything. And so getting those first positive reviews online, when people search your company on Google, they see 5 stars. Even if you only have a handful of reviews, that's huge. So pride yourself in your work, know your skill level, and build from there.
My number one tip, don't go cheap with your equipment. My second advice is what I did is I've always ran my company as if I already had a team. When it was just me, I've always said we, when I speak. If somebody messaged us on Facebook, I've always said, how can we help you? Or we'll send a technician out, later today. But it was just me. My last bit of advice is don't be in it. Yes, the money that's why we're in it. We want to make money. But that shouldn't be the biggest factor in starting a business. You need to do something that you love and have integrity in what you do. Just keep your name good, because one small thing can ruin you. You can do 1 million things right, and then you do one thing wrong, and it's just, your business can go down the drain.
I would say really sit down. Number one, do your homework. Do your homework on the people that are already doing what you're doing. Somebody that's been in business for a long time, they know what they're doing. Find out what they're charging, find out how they're structured, how they're doing things. If you're kind of going into an avenue that nobody's really doing, so you can still do that research. Find out your cost, but really pay attention to your cost and what it's gonna cost to operate every single month. Beyond that, have a goal set inside. It's gonna seem really unachievable at first. It really is, but think of it as a ladder. I mean, if you just gotta climb one step at a time. You're never gonna make it to the top just overnight. It's just not gonna happen. It's a lot of nights of grinding, working till 9, 10 o'clock at night, but you have to put in that grind to really appreciate it in the end. I guess the other thing, and I would say with businesses, is just be careful with debt in the beginning. It's really easy to go get a brand new truck that you think you need for the business, to go buy that brand new piece of equipment. That's all well and good, but when that payment comes every month, and if you are a little slow, that money's got to come from somewhere. So just kind of, I would say, try to build your equipment and your vehicles and your stuff as you grow. It's okay to start with a used truck. It's okay to start with used equipment. Nobody's gonna look down on you. And most people in this kind of industry, in any trades, I would say, they're gonna respect that you're out there trying and you're out there hustling and you're working every day. That's what they wanna see. The flashy trucks, the flashy equipment, it's nice, but in the end, it's not really gonna do a lot for you.
One of the tips I would highly suggest is you're gonna fail, and to learn from that. Failure is growth, I guess, in other words.
I would say just do as much research as possible on whatever it is. Like for us, it was moving. So just trying to figure out everything there is to a moving business you can, whether it's just, I literally watched so many YouTube videos just on starting a business. I'm in school, so I went to my professors. I went to one of my marketing professors, and he helped me get some ideas. If you know anyone who's a business business owner or is just, I don't know, anything to do with sales or anything like that, just reach out to them, have a conversation, just reach out to as many people as you can and just try to get as much advice as possible.
And lastly, I'd say go out of your comfort zone. For me, that's going door knocking. It's not my favorite, but you got to do what you got to do, and it's part of the business. So I embrace it and helps you grow as a person and as a business. So
I had kind of a homeowner level chainsaw, so I had to buy a better one. I had a pickup truck already, but bought a small utility trailer to get going to move logs back and forth. You know, an axe and an axe for the first couple months, which quickly required a log splitter after that, but pretty minimal to get going.
Can you talk about the log splitter and how you found that? And
yeah, the first one we bought was a Canadian-made Wallenstein, so standard splitter, but a little bit more heavy duty than just the traditional one. But bought it used off of Marketplace, and that really got us going and kept me from swinging an axe every day. My elbows were sore for 2 months straight, so I knew that wasn't sustainable.
how many bundles of wood can you get with like a log splitter in an hour? How does that work?
Yeah, the splitter, so from chopping with an axe, I was probably able to go from a round piece into split firewood, probably about an hour and a half to do a face cord, which is roughly a truckload full, maybe 2 hours, as you get tired out. The log splitter shrunk that time from an hour and a half to 2 hours down to about 1 hour. And then recently the splitter that we bought now takes that 1 hour down to about 15 minutes. So we've invested in that part of the process being more efficient.
Can you talk about your day-to-day process with this business?
So we get logs from various places. Some are people who want trees cut down, and we do a little bit of that work. Some of it is storm damage cleanup. Some of it is developments that are turning a woods into a subdivision, and we either buy or take logs away that they just need cleared. So logs come in that I go pick up into the back part of our lot here, and then day to day it's just moving those logs through our process. So from whole logs to rounds, we call them, so 16-inch pieces that haven't been split yet. Rounds get split into individual sticks or chunks of firewood, and then those are sold sort of by the face cord or truckload, or bundled. So we do also bundle a bunch of wood for a campground that's local here. So that needs, batch it up into about 3/4 of a cubic foot of volume, lash it together with some twine, put a handle on it, and then it's sold that way to campers.
And who's your primary customers? Is it mainly campers? Is it homeowners? Is it restaurants?
Yeah, right now, probably 75% of our revenue comes from that campground account. So that's a 200 site campground. It's open April to the end of October. So we bundle about 5,000 bundles on their season. So that's about an hour and a half of work every day for those 7 months to keep up. 20% of our revenue is homeowners, folks that are local that we bring wood to each fall, typically, that they'll burn outside or inside over the next year. And then a small percentage that I'm looking to grow more is restaurant folks. So a lot of the wood we have is cherry. We also have hickory. We also get apple, really nice species to smoke or cook meat over or other smoked items. So I'd say that last 5% right now is restaurant business. I would love that to be 25% because restaurants have a steady demand year round, which is really favorable for kind of a one-man operation.
What does the future look like? What is growing or expanding? How do you plan on doing that?
So we're definitely in a growth mode. The goal for this business is we started with an end goal in mind, which was, I've got 3 daughters. I wanted to have X amount of dollars saved for them by the time they go to college. So I've worked that backwards into kind of a monthly profit target to achieve that savings goal. So we kind of are a bit unique in that we want to profit about $15,000 a year to meet that target, and with a little ability to go beyond that and kind of get there earlier. But that's sort of I don't want this to replace my day job. I sit behind a computer 8 hours a day and just wait for quitting time so I can go split wood. So it's a good balance to kind of a stationary desk job.
You think one day they'll take over this business?
I hope so. You know, they go on deliveries, they come with me to split wood. It's usually an hour or two at a time. You know, they're 9, 6, and 6, so I don't want them running chainsaws yet, but would like to someday, or, you know, at least have an appreciation for hard work and see what it takes to kind of build something.
So is this your property then?
No, I rent the barn space and the couple acres around it from a local farmer here. Very marginal, so I pay $200 a month for this space, but I'm also his saw man, so farmers don't like dealing with trees. So if he has a new piece of property he buys and he wants the trees cleared, or a tree somewhere falls down on his cornfield, you know, I'm typically the one going to take care of it for him. So more of a barter thing, but I do pay a little bit for the space too.
What was like the drive to actually start with like the firewood business?
I sort of knew that I wanted it to be a little bit gritty, something that, you know, maybe you're used to seeing a guy like me as a firewood delivery guy and not cute little blonde-headed girls. And then for them, you know, the kind of philosophy part of, hey, you can do hard stuff too. You can do stuff that is typically stuff that men performed. It doesn't have to be that way. And then the name, the Lumberjills name, is a cool, you know, concept. So everybody knows about Rosie the Riveter from the kind of World War II sort of time. So they were the equivalent Lumberjills, these teenagers in early 20s women that when the men went away to fight the war, they occupied these lumber camps and learned how to cut down trees and work these really tough conditions, you know, continue to make wood products that were needed for the war efforts. So, and they called themselves Lumberjills. That was kind of their, like, that's what we are. So, yeah, the Timber Corps was another name, but I was like, that's kind of a perfect what we're trying to instill into them.
How much is one bundle of wood?
A bundle of wood we sell at our stand for $5. We wholesale it to the campground for $4. And then if that bundle retail at the campground, I think they sell it for $8. But a lot of gas stations that sell wood, you know, sort of marginal quality, but that bundle is usually $6 to $10 at a retail space.
And then when you deliver, are you charging an extra fee for that? Is that part of your service? How does that work?
Yeah, we charge an extra fee for delivery. I really keep my delivery radius really small. I only want to go maybe 10 miles from here. So mostly Saline, Ann Arbor, Dexter. Yeah, so we sell a face cord of firewood for $120. We charge $160 if they want that delivered. So typically, you know, it's covers gas, covers a little bit of time, but I think if we didn't deliver, we'd probably have a lot less business. And then I always prefer to stack for people too. Sometimes it shoots you in the foot because it's, yeah, my wood pile's through the fence, way into the backyard, and you can only take a wheelbarrow at a time. But I just, as a customer service oriented person, like, I don't like just dump the wood in the driveway and then it's like, here you go, there's your mess to clean up. You know, I prefer to just stack it neat, and I don't know, something kind of artsy about like a cool looking stack of firewood too.
What's your favorite kind of wood to cut?
Ooh, cut, I would say ash for sure. Burn, my perfect fire probably has 3 species in it. Oak for a long burn and a lot of heat. Ash for a nice bright, vibrant flame, and cherry for the fragrance. I'm kind of fancy with my burn stuff. I like a blend.
Do you have customers that like heat their homes with wood and they buy like large supplies from you?
We have a few. What I found on folks that are heating with wood is that they really try to barter and knock you down on your price. I'm happy to sell to them. It's great because it's high volume, but they typically are looking for, you know, a cheaper price. Like the wood we split, I call it bundle grade. So if you look at these pieces, they're pretty small, more set up or kind of more engineered for somebody, just a casual fire on Thanksgiving with friends over. I don't need the heat, but I have a few. I do have a few. I've got sort of the hybrid person who's like, I've got a gas furnace in my house, but I like to burn wood all winter. So yeah, I've got a gal I just brought a couple face cords to who heats like 80% of her house with wood, but she also appreciates like clean stuff that's smaller. It's, you know, some of these chunks, a piece of oak that's that big is pretty heavy. You know, it's hard to lug around. A lot of fireplaces or wood stoves are smaller, so that piece doesn't even fit in there.
Do you think the size of like the stand here makes a difference in what people see when they drive by? Or say you had it even bigger, you think it would be more attractive, or you think it doesn't make a difference in your sales?
I think this size was sort of in between of bigger is better in the sense of if somebody comes, like I've had people that come and they wipe this whole thing out and then I don't know right away, so it could be empty for the next person trying to get some wood out of it. I think kind of it's big enough and tall enough that that road, there's a bunch of subdivisions down that way, so when they come up and you come to that stop sign, it's kind of on display. Going this way up and down Saline Milan Road, you don't see it as much, but I think it's enough for someone to see it, especially coming to the stop sign there. I don't know. I think if I did it again, I would do pretty much the same size. I like that I can it's not so heavy because it's all tube steel, so it's pretty beefy, but with 2 guys, I can shimmy this onto my trailer, and if I had another location, I could move it. So that's sort of appealing too. I wanted it to be accessible from both sides, so I want people to be safe. They pull in, they're behind it, and they can load from the back and not have to come here, because we're kind of on a hilltop, it's hard to see out, so I want people to be able to pull straight out instead of having to back out into something busy.
When you very first started, did you have to invest in it, or did you get hand-me-down equipment?
No, I had to work my tail off to save money up. I worked for a different company, lawn care company, but I saved all my money up from them, and then I bought a new mower this year. Bought a brand new mower, Gravely. So that was my first big investment, and that's my only investment so far. But I'm hoping to get my truck for next year. But we're working on things, just trying to get more and more clients, having happy clients.
Can you say how much the lawnmower cost?
Yes, the lawnmower was right around $9,000 for my first investment. So
what were you using beforehand?
Well, actually, so I did get I got a little handy down from my buddy's dad. I cut his lawn for free, but I got to use his lawnmower for my other clients. So that was last year. I was using a little sit-down 52-inch Exmark. So that he was the first one to really get me going, but I bought my own mower with the money I earned last year. So.
And what made you transition from having working for a company and then thinking oh, I can do this on my own, and then going out into that?
When you're working for a different company, I just like to be my own. I like to be my own boss and make my own hours. And just for me, it's just my biggest thing is making my clients happy, and I just love seeing my clients smile and happy with all my work. But I've always loved it, doing lawn care with a different company, but I just wanted to go on my own and try to figure out the struggles of being on my own and doing stuff like that. And I just love landscaping. It's just awesome.
How far do you travel to for your client?
I like to stay around the Grand Rapids area, but I live in Caledonia, but the farthest I go was probably a little south of Grand Rapids, downtown Grand Rapids. I don't like going down into the city, but I'll go down there. But from Grand Rapids to Caledonia, Kentwood, Pine Center, all that. That's my main area.
Driving radius isn't huge.
For mowing wise, you don't want to drive as far just because you're using so much gas. But yeah, for landscaping jobs, I'll drive farther because those are it's one big job. But I would like to keep for mowing. I like to keep it nice and tense routes, just so I don't have to drive as far.
Are you doing a lot of suburbs?
Yeah, I like to when I get one client in a neighborhood like I'm in a neighborhood with you guys right now. I like to knock on doors and put out my cards and stuff, business cards and door hangers. So I'll just go around every time I see a lawn that I mow and she likes it, and there's another neighbor that hasn't been mowed and it's long, I'll go knock on her door and say, hey, my name is Gabe, and we go from there. And I, for instance, have one in Kentwood. I just got one this year. It's a brand new client for me, and then now I have 10 in there. Within a month, I got 10 clients because I knocked on the door and I take care of the lawns and I try my best and trying to make people happy.
How big are the yards? Does that make it difficult? What are some challenges?
For little houses in this neighborhood that are just small, it's just rock beds and bark beds that I just don't want to spray grass into, and it's just such a tight area. But for big lawns, that's why I love doing big lawns, because unless there's trees. But the trees are another thing I don't like going around. But I like to stay in lawns that are just square and simple. But I'll mow any lawns though. I love mowing. So.
And when you started out, did you start by yourself, or did you have an employee, or did you have family?
Yeah, so it's my dad also. He had back in the day. He started his own lawn care, and he called it Three Sons, and he couldn't get it going, but because he he had health issues. But anyways, yeah, my dad really made me want to get into it more because he started it and he just couldn't get it going. And now it's just me and my dad right now. So me and my dad, and I have every other Friday I'll have my buddy help me, or sometimes my brothers come and help us too, but it's usually just me and my dad.
What price point do you think is too low to start at, and what price point is too high?
For an average neighborhood, too low would be like $15 a cut. And then too high would be like $70 a cut if you're first starting. If you're charging $70 first cut, and that's just ridiculous. But some people do. But I would say the average is like from 25 to 45, I would say, for starting off. But once you get more experience and you get more experience in quoting people, and then you feel more confident about yourself and your work that you do, you can charge more because you know you're doing a lot better job than, say, the guy that cuts a lawn and leaves all the grass all over the lawn. So
What does your typical day-to-day look like?
I wake up at like 7:30 and drink my coffee and just get all my mowers ready. I sharpen my blades two times a week. I sharpen my blades so the grass doesn't die, and I usually get on my first lawns by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So that's, just mow. I mow probably 15 houses pretty much every day, 15 houses, I would say.
And then what time are you done at?
It really just depends, but if the grass is long, but right now it's long, so usually I'm done by 6. I like to be done by 6 just because I want to be just courteous to all the people getting home from work and not hearing a bunch of noise when they want to hang low.
Do you ever work on the weekends?
Yes, I don't like working on Sundays, but Saturdays, I work pretty much every Saturday. That's when I start. On Saturdays, I do my landscaping jobs. So like mowing, I mow Monday through Friday, and then I try to do landscaping jobs every Saturday. But sometimes I don't get those. That's what I'm trying to get more of, is landscaping jobs.
Like percentage-wise, how much are you doing like landscaping versus?
Landscaping, I probably do maybe 2 or 3 jobs a month. Mowing, I mow a lot. Mowing is my main thing just because it's a lot easier to get. Everybody wants mowing. Mowing's a day or a weekly thing. Landscaping isn't really, it's whenever they need.
Would you say that your percentage of like revenue from landscaping is much higher than mowing? Or?
I would say so, unless I quote it. If I quote it wrong and I make a big mistake and it takes me, say I quote something for only like $500 and it takes me 2 days, and then I'm not going to make that money because I'm working 24 hours on one job, and I quoted her for way less than I should have made.
Do you have any commercial properties?
I have most residential, but I also do. So my brother, he works at he's a special needs teacher, and his boss, so I mow her like this little business off of East Paris by Broadmoor, or East Paris 28th Street or whatever. So mow that one, and then I mow a church too. So just 2 commercial ones.
Do you charge more?
Yes, I do, because there's so much more pain. Like if you're on 28th Street and you got cars, you're trying to edge, and it's just like kind of deadly, to be honest with you. You can get hit by a car.
What are some of your plans on like expanding or growing if you want to?
Well, I really want to get up to my first goal this year. I'm trying to take it slow just because I don't want to make any mistakes. Just want to learn my customers as it goes and learn all the pains and grows and everything about it. But I want to get to I'm at like 45 right now, 45 clients right now. So I want to get to by like 80 by the end of the year would be great. But I'm really pushing it. But my biggest goal is just to make people happy. That's my. I don't want to have 130 clients, 140 clients, and they're all mad, or not all mad, but I got like 10 mad. I want to make my biggest thing is making my customers happy. So I'd like to be a small company where I can still make my own living and live on my own and all that.
If you do that, would you hire someone to help you permanently?
Yeah, my goal is to hire my buddy back there. That's my biggest goal, but he's working on his own things too, but I'm going to try. I'm definitely need to hire somebody here soon. I'm working probably 60, 70 hours a week, so that's a decent amount. But yeah, definitely within the year, I want to hire somebody.
Do you have any interesting stories that you want to share?
It's kind of a bad thing, but it's kind of a funny thing. I was out on Green Lake with my buddy, not this one, but a different buddy, and he hit a rock, and then he literally went flying into the lake. So I even have a video of it. So he thinks he's better mower than me. So I kind of just every time he gets a little cocky about his stripes and his lines and people's lawns, I kind of just show him that video and like, hey, I've never been into a lake. So I guess that's kind of funny. He went flying into a lake, so it's kind of funny.
So do you do stripes because you're double crossing like lines like that you might have missed, or do you do it for just aesthetics?
I mean, it looks good for other customers, but like if you double cut and go in different ways, it makes the grass just cut way more evenly, and then having like different, like say if you single cut something, you're gonna have just not gonna look very good. But if you double cut going different ways, or even sometimes triple cut, like your guys' lawn's always really long, so we take our time on it. And yeah, I would say a lot of people like the stripes, but it's also just makes the grass even more healthier and cuts it nice and flat and even.
Have you ever had mower breakdowns where you had to go to your push mower and do the whole lawn?
Yeah, I used to push mowers. When I first started, I had a push mower. My first house down there was Maui, and that's what my dad used to. I never push mowed it. I hate push mowing. My dad push mowed it, so I can't lie. But yeah, that's what we started with was a push mower, and then we got too many lawns that were too big, and push mowing is just something I don't like doing. But something like little small ones I would definitely do, but big yards, it's not so much fun with the little push mower.
What equipment would you like have to have?
For mowing grass, you really need to have a weed whip, an edger, any kind of mower that mows. You can have a sit down, you can have anything. Really, to first get started, like I said, I started with a push mower, and that's probably the biggest thing is you got to have a mower, edger, and a weed whip, and a backpack blower to blow off. And a trailer, you want a trailer, but if you're living in a neighborhood, you can also just tow it behind your mower if you have a sit-on mower. But if you're just in a neighborhood, you can just push everything around in the little cart.
How do you recommend that they get into it? What do you recommend they need to do before they do it?
Before they do, they gotta make sure you have like a backpack or a little backpack to spray off the grass from everybody's driveways and stuff. But to get clients, I would just really just about word of mouth. If you really just say if you're 16 years old and you don't have, or you're 15 years old and you can't drive yet, if you're living in a neighborhood, the biggest thing is I would just cut your neighbor's yard, and I would just keep passing out cards to the neighbors, and then once you get to 16, you get to be able to drive, and then you can expand out to different neighborhoods. But the biggest thing is I would, like if you're younger than 16, I would just stay in your neighborhood and just keep mowing your neighbors' yards, and everybody will see how good of work you do. And I think that's the biggest thing is just the word of mouth is getting out there and showing up on time. I think that's the biggest thing is when someone wants their lawn cut, you have to be there.
To do it all day for the full day, would you do the lawn mowing or would you do the weed whacking?
Weed whacking, because I like exercise, so I like to move around and just lose weight. It's just something. You're sweating when mowing. You do sweat when you're mowing, but you just feel lazy. You're just sitting there, and then you have people around you. You're just sitting on the mower, and then you get people hustling and running, and doing with the weed whip and edging and blowing off. But yeah, I just like working hard, so I'd rather weed whip. But
And what equipment do you guys have?
We bought our own truck and we have pads, blankets we use to wrap stuff. We have our own wrap, dollies, just all the moving straps you need and stuff.
Is there any like essential things you think you need?
Yeah, ratchets, bungees. A lot about moving too. People think it's all strength. It's really the grip and how you hold things more than the strength, I would say personally.
We always use the dolly, if we can, just to make sure it's easy on our bodies also. But we have the right grips and right technique how to move it. There's literally like a science to it. When you're bringing it up and down the steps, you got to be careful with it. So that's why we always pad, wrap it. And then once it's in the truck, it's going to be strapped to a wall. It's going to be nice, protected, and packed a certain way in the truck. So
And then can I ask how much you guys spent to get started?
So we both put $500 each into a business account. And that was, we bought shirts, some signs to put out, Facebook ads, and basically enough for our first truck to rent. So we really didn't put a lot into it. So we literally just started with each putting in $500 just to get it up and running, get our LLC, everything like that going.
From the beginning to now, if there is any differences, what do your day-to-day operations look like?
Every day is going to be different. We're both still in college, so there's maybe some days where we're more school oriented or more, on the move, working on the business, putting up signs. Every day is different. There's not like a certain day. Like this week we have, the interview with you guys, and then we have moves Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Monday and Wednesday are kind of more like school days, taking phone calls, texting, emails, stuff like that.
There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we kind of fill the days with. Like we'll go around putting up signs or door knocking when we don't have moves. So we kind of try and do something almost every day to help grow the business.
How much does something like that cost?
So for that one, it was 2 trucks. So it was I think it was $12,000 for that move because it was a 2-trucker.
Then are you usually doing 1 truck moves, or what's the average move look like?
Usually you're getting close to 1 full truck. If you're doing like an apartment move, it's probably closer to half a truck. House move, it's usually pretty close to a full truck. It varies. And then sometimes there's people that they move all the small stuff on their own to save money. And that's that's a great idea. And then we just come in and do the couches, the dressers, all the big heavy stuff that they can't get. Most of our moves are at $179 an hour. That's a local move, or if it's not junk removal, it's going to be $179 an hour. So average moves around like 6 hours. Probably an average moves around like $1,000. Like that long distance one we said, the Iowa is obviously a great paying one, but you're also on the road for 4 or 5 days. So that's why you have to charge more. You have to add more for insurance when you're going out of the state. So that's why those get more expensive. On average, we probably get around like 5,000 to 6,000 a month, maybe. We've had some great months, but that's probably our average.
What are some of your clients? Are they young? Are they old? Is it all ages?
Yeah, I would say all ages. We've done like some of my friends that I know, family that are younger. Yeah, we've literally done all ages. I can think, yeah, literally all ages.
What are some of the positive things to a moving company? What are some of the negative things?
It's a good workout. It's also sore some days. The other day, what you said, 6 to 8 miles is on average what we move. With all the steps and stuff. So you're carrying a lot of weight. So, you have to make sure you do it right or else your body's going to feel it. Yeah, just being your own business owner. You don't have to work for somebody. That's huge, personally, for me.
I'd say my favorite thing is just helping people through this process. I understand buying a house, selling a house can be stressful. So just having like the moving taken care of part of it just can relieve that for you. Yeah, like I said, first time home buyers are excited to get in there. It's nice moving them in there. But there's also times where, something bad happened and they have to sell the house for whatever it is. And it's kind of a sad time moving out. So just to be there, kind of comfort them through that. We understand what they're going through. So just put yourself in their shoes and, just make it as stress-free as possible for them.
Do you guys have any plans on growing or expanding?
Yeah, so right now it's just us two. We have one truck. As we grow, we want to get another truck and some good quality employees. That way we could probably split up 2 trucks going out, 4 guys. So that would be awesome. And just growing, just getting our name more out there is basically what we need. Moving is always going to be a need. People need moving, whether it's just something interior, if you're getting your flooring done, if it's junk removal, local distance, long distance, business moves. People always need moving services. So we just need our name out there. So Facebook ads, stuff like this, anything we can do to get our name out there more, we're willing to do.
Like he said, people are always moving. Sellers market, buyers market, economy. People are always on the move. So just being there to help people out, we enjoy that. We definitely want to paint our truck and just get our name out there.
You guys are in college, but do you think college will help you on your journey?
Personally, no, I don't plan on using my degree. I'm about ready to graduate and I don't ever want to use it. I have it kind of as a backup plan. If the economy takes a turn or something, I guess. If I have to use it, I would. But personally, I hope to never use it.
I probably haven't learned really anything in college so far to help me out. Maybe my marketing professor helped me out a little bit, but it kind of just seemed like basic stuff I could have went online to figure out. It's good. College is good if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer. But if you want to be a business owner, you don't have to go to college. You don't. I don't think, at least so far, I'm a junior and I really haven't learned anything that really helped me grow this business.
Can you tell us why Short Kings? Why should someone book with you guys?
Like we mentioned earlier, we're the owners and we're the ones moving, so you know what you're going to get. Whereas other companies, you're talking to someone on the phone, then they have a manager, and then you actually don't know who the movers are going to be when they show up. We wrap everything. We basically pretend like your items are our items, so we don't want to break anything.
I would say we have the easiest booking process. You call, you're calling me. You can literally have like a 5-minute conversation with me and we can get you booked like that. All we do is we send you a moving form, you fill it out, and we've done, 500 plus moves. We know how long that's going to take. So they send that over, I look it over, and then we can give you an estimate, 6 to 7 hours. And it's usually, if that's an accurate form they gave us, it's going to take 6 to 7 hours. Literally can take 5 to 10 minutes to book it, and you know how much it's going to cost, which I think is one of our best benefits. And then, we protect it. We hustle when we move. We get to work. That's why we don't have a problem charging by the hour, because we are moving. We are running back and forth between the truck. Yes, we take care of your furniture. We take that time to pad wrap it, but we pad wrap fast, we move fast, and we've done 100 moves and we've had no one complain about our pricing taking too long, anything like that. If you go on Google, it's all 5-star reviews. So
is there any skills that you need to be an entrepreneur or to own a moving company?
You just got to go for it. I mean, you're going to learn as you go. You're going to make mistakes. I feel like being a people person, I find myself a people person. I love talking to people, and I think that's been a huge benefit. Connecting with people, find something to connect on where you can have that conversation with, whether it's sports, literally anything. Just find something you guys have in common and talk about that. I think that really makes the move go better. You develop a connection with them. So
Yeah, friend, just entrepreneur itself, just go try something. If you don't like it, try something else. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can get out of anything at any time if you want. So there's no waste in trying something, I guess. Networking's huge. I mean, we've done so many different events and met with so many realtors, you guys, whole bunch of different like random people that we didn't know. And they just kind of refer us out, or they tell us. Networking's huge just because it helps get your name out there. I don't know. You learn so much more networking than you do, I don't know, doing other stuff, I guess. Personally, that's what I found out.
one last thing I want to say is just like keep hustling, keep on the grind. I mean, I've really been working since I was 14. I started as a caddy, and once I had enough money, I bought a moped just so I could get to the golf course to caddy in the summer. I did that forever. I got a scholarship from it, and that's probably why I'm still in school. If I didn't have that scholarship, I would probably be dropped out by now. But literally just always keep moving forward, keep taking that next step. Just, keep hustling.
I was 15 and I got a job at Dairy Queen. I hated it. I promised myself I'd never work with food again. It's only been uphill from there, and I don't plan on turning back.
What was the first equipment that you bought?
I just bought the smallest pressure washer that I seen, the cheapest, because like I said, I was doing it. I started to do my own house. I bought it to do my own house, and that's how we got started. So once we decided to, really do it as a business, we did my sister's house, and we realized that small piece of equipment wasn't gonna cut it. So start investing into bigger equipment.
Do you know how much money you spent to get your operation going?
Everything kind of really happened over time, but I would say, just to get it started, it was about $5,000, between $5,000 and $10,000, But over time, to really get where we are, I wouldn't say where we are now, but to get where in our second year, about $20,000 that we had to really put into the business to really get to a point where we can kind of do the work we wanted to do.
What's your day-to-day look like today?
We do 3 to 4 jobs a day. It really depends on the size of the jobs because we offer multiple services. I mean, if we were just doing a house wash, that can be an hour and a half most of the time, unless it's huge. But most of the time on one visit, we're doing most of the time a house, windows, gutter cleaning, sometimes a deck. But it's multiple services. So it's, like I said, it just depends. Day to day, like I said, 3 to 4 jobs. If we start at 8 o'clock, we can get those done, by 3, 4 o'clock if we're really, hustling.
What are some of your funnest jobs? What do you like doing the most?
I like washing houses. That's it's pretty quick, it's easy. I can do it by myself. I hate doing windows. It's time consuming, it's tedious. That's my least favorite service. Hand washing windows. I like doing gutter cleanings, the decks. I don't like doing decks. Decks with rails. The rails is what's it's tedious. You got to hit all four sides. Sometimes it's a million of them. So the spindles rather.
How far do you guys travel to do a job?
I'm on a normal basis about 30, 35 miles. I like to stay under 30. We've gone to Ludington, which is about an hour and a half, hour 15 minutes. We've gone 2 hours once, and I'll probably never do that again. Ludington, Caledonia, that was about an hour 15 minutes, hour 30 minutes. I don't like to drive that far because, when you get so far away from home or what you're used to, and if anything happens, something can break down, or when we're on the highway, a tire blow or something like that, I don't want to risk that, So I like to stay in my safe zone, which is, under 30 miles.
From when you first started to now, how many employees have you gained, and how did you know that you needed employees?
When I started a business, this is not my first business I started, but when I started business, I always think of helping my family and friends. So, hiring employees, which is, I don't call them employees, I call them partners. That has always been my goal, is to help people. So my largest team that I had thus far, which was this year, I had a team of 7. I'm constantly trying to grow because I want to help people. You know, I want to help, you know, I want to offer my sons, my nephews, you know, my family, friends, I want to offer them jobs, you know, so that's my goal.
Can you talk about some of the businesses that you started in the past?
I started a moving business. I figure I've always tried to start businesses that were fairly easy to do because I always think about my sons, my brothers, my nephews, you know, the men in my family. You know, I always wanted them to take care of their families and have a way. So I started a moving business, and then we were hauling junk. We added on junk hauling. I had like a vending service where we were selling drinks and stuff. And then my lady at the time, she said, you know, she was tired of working, so she didn't want to work anymore. And she said she wanted to sell hair, so I started a hair business for her, and she ended up backing out of it, so I had so much money invested into it, so I had to keep that going. And then I started a food truck business for my mom. So we were selling food.
Do you do any of those anymore? Or?
No, so basically what happened is I got tired of people, you know, not putting their all into it. I was putting 100% into it and they wasn't. And it's like, so when like I said, the pressure washing thing kind of fell in my lap and I kind of fell in love with it because it wasn't really something I had planned. But when it fell in my lap, I kind of fell in love with it because I realized that I could do this without anybody. You know, I don't have to depend on anybody to do this. So that's kind of like why I stopped doing everything else, because everything else, I needed someone.
Do you currently do carpet cleaning?
Yeah, we just added on carpet cleaning this year. It was something that I was a little bit afraid to pull the trigger on, but I mean, I kind of, you know, with pressure washing, especially with the work that we do, I'm seeing, you know, clients, they're calling maybe, you know, every 3 to 4 years because the cleanings, you know, they stay pretty good, you know, for a while. And when we first started off, we went for the worst houses. And what I learned by doing that in the beginning, when you go for the worst houses, those houses have been dirty for 10, 15 years. So they're not calling us back. So that kind of bit me in the butt. So I figured with carpet cleaning, we'll get more, returning clients more sooner, you know, versus we wash the house wash lasts for, 3 to 4 years. You know, so basically my point is we have to really rely on new clients every year versus if we did carpet cleaning, we can get people set up on, a carpet cleaning twice a year or at least once a year.
Can you talk about some of like their pricing for the pressure washing?
So with pressure washing, we'll say with the house, I try to keep it simple. A normal ranch style house, we'll say that I charge $50 per side. So if it's 2-story, $75 to $100 per side. And the reason why I say that because in certain areas, a 2-story house could look like a mansion, or it could look like, it could be a small 2-story house, or it can be like a mansion style. With those type of houses, I do every estimate in person. But for your regular style house, 50 a side. And what I do, because I used to measure, but basically I take a side and I say, okay, this side is 50. So I kind of like say, how many sides are this size on this house? And that's kind of like how I get my price.
And then what's a typical driveway? Or
typical driveway, about $75. We do 15 to 20 cents per square foot. Your regular style, your regular 2-star driveway, if it's not too long, about $75.
And then any of the other services?
Your regular, let's say a 10 by 12 deck is we do 75 cents per square foot on the deck. On the rails, we do, if it's rails with spindles, we do $2 per linear foot. Your average size deck is about $150. Gutters, we do $1 per linear foot for the first level, $2 per linear foot for the second, and the third, $3. On a regular house, let's say a ranch style house, the house length is about 40 to 50 feet. So if you have gutters on the front and the back, it could be $80 to $100 for a single level. Window cleaning, we do $3 per pane. For the outside window cleaning, we do $4 per pane for the inside hand washing.
Do you currently have any plans on growing or expanding?
It's been a challenge growing because I want to keep, our name, our 5-star rating. We have all 5-star reviews on Facebook and Google. We have a great reputation, and I feel like that's like that because I've been on every job, and I don't want to go on every job. But until I have somebody that's, their heart is in it like me, it doesn't have to be like me. But that's why I say I hire, partners instead of employees, because I teach everybody. Anybody that comes on the team, I teach them everything. I don't hold nothing back, because you have to be able to go out and interact with these clients, do the job, know everything you need to know, be able to troubleshoot, be able to do estimates, be able to answer questions. You have to know all of these things, and I can't hold anything back if I need you to do these things. So that makes you're just not a regular employee at that point. I need you just as much as you need me for the growth of this company.
Can you talk about some of the equipment that you need for pressure washing?
Basically, you need to spend the extras. You can't be trying to go to Walmart or Lowe's, Home Depot, and get you a pressure washer. We spent $5,000, like I said earlier, on two. We got two pressure washers that cost us $5,000. We got one that cost us $8,000. And when you want to do work in volume, you got to have something like that. We rely on gallons per minute, the flow, the volume of water versus the pressure, because we can do a 2-story house from the ground with no issue. We can do 3 stories from the ground. If it's not too windy, we don't need any ladders or anything, And to be able to do that, you need to spend the extras on the equipment so you can get those jobs done quick if you got a lot of jobs coming in. That's volume work. But if you don't have a lot of jobs coming in, you can start with, something from Lowe's or Home Depot. But once you have those jobs coming in, you got to spend those thousands on the bigger equipment.
Do you guys just stick to residential? Do you guys have any commercial?
So commercial, we haven't really tapped. So we've done some commercial jobs, but not really tapped into it too much, because commercial, they want things done cheap. And I'm having a hard time accepting that, because it's like, you guys have way more money than me. But you want me to cut my prices for you to do something one time that you're only gonna get done once every 10 years. If it was something like, they did annually, then yeah, but I don't feel like I should cut my prices for a millionaire to satisfy them, So, and they pretty much want us to cut our prices in half, literally, because it's bulk work. Yes, if we did a commercial job, let's say if it's a job for $20,000 and they want us to do it for 10, yes, we still can be profitable, but is that fair, And I just can't accept that. That's why we don't get much commercial work, but we're still doing fine.
Yeah, because you can put in the same amount of hours for residential.
Yep.
And get paid more.
And they'll appreciate us more, And it's like, commercial, they want you to cut your prices in half, but they want to be particular about certain things, and they want you to still do a great job. And the worst thing that I hate about commercial is they always complain about, we had a company do it last year for X amount of dollars, and we just, we wasn't satisfied. But you want to hire a better company, but you want to pay them either the same amount or less. It doesn't make sense to me.
What was your biggest job that you've done?
Well, this is a pretty big job. I wouldn't say it's our biggest. I don't really know what's our biggest. I think this job is about $8,000. It's 7 units. It takes us about 2 hours per unit. So it's about 14 hours, $8,000. I think that's pretty good. Yeah.
How do you combat the seasons?
I always try to make enough money to kind of like hibernate for the season, maybe vacation, one time at least. Honestly, I haven't been able to do that in all of my years doing this business. I've always said, this year was going to be the year that I can actually, vacation and actually enjoy the off season. What normally happens is I spend a lot of money on employee pay, because I put a lot of training and hours into these guys, because I'm trying to get them on my level, not saying I'm like the big shot, but I don't want it to be just one me, that can do everything. I want everybody on my team to be able to do everything. Sometimes I train, 4 guys at a time. We have 2-man teams. Sometimes I have, 4 or 5 guys out on a job when it's not even necessary. But I'm trying to, get these guys trained up, so we all can split up. We can do, 7, 8 jobs in a day versus 3 or 4. And we all can go home early. And still, because I pay salary, we can be on the clock for 5 hours, 10 hours, or whatever, but I try to show these guys how to do the job quickly and efficiently. Use, every tool that they have. I don't shortchange myself when it comes to buying, the good stuff, because I want to get in and get out, You know, time is money. That's why we don't charge by the hour, we charge by the job, because we're trying to get in and get out and maximize profits. I don't want to give up my summer every year, and I do that, but the goal is to, you know, enjoy my summer as well.
Do you normally work like Monday through Friday?
Yeah, we work Monday through Friday. Sometimes we work on the weekends. Mainly it's mostly commercial if we work on the weekends, or it's jobs that we have to, you know, squeeze in. I do charge extra on the weekends because I want, you know, I want to have a life too. So if I got to work, you know, you got to pay a little extra for that. But I try to leave my weekends open, you know, just in case we run into some issues and we got to make up some jobs. I mean, I don't know if, you know, probably don't want to hear this part, but I got like 3 cracked ribs right now, you know, so I'm a little slow. So I need that weekend, you know. So I can't even laugh. But yeah, things happen and we need that cushion, you know. So like our schedule is packed. The whole month of May has been packed, you know, no room for anything. When people call and they want to get in, you know, ASAP, the weekend is all I can do for you and you got to pay extra for that. And some people are not happy about it, but, you know, if you wanted to get on the schedule sooner, you should have called sooner.
What are some investments that you had to make to get started?
Investments to get started, I mean, like just a generic welder to do steel welding, for instance, if you're only going to do steel, you know, that welder is going to cost you about $1,500 just to get started. There's cheaper versions out there, and technology has helped a lot of people get into the market because the cheaper technology is getting better. So I would say, you know, your first initial investment, you're going to spend $1,000 to $1,500 on a good quality welder to take on these projects.
What are some of your like day-to-days look like, or week to weeks?
It really depends on the week, obviously, the workload. But, you know, a lot of it is scheduling out, you know, your days so you have enough time, because it's very easy to run yourself out of time in a day, because you got to plan for the time to go to the hardware store to get materials, go to the steel yard to get sheets of steel. And then, you know, if you get rolling and you run out of gas for your welder, well, now you got to go to the welding shop to get some gas. So I'd say day to day, it's a lot of trying to plan in the morning what your day looks like, and then trying to navigate that. And if it doesn't go exactly by plan, that's okay. And that's been tough for me on my own to navigate a little bit, is the day-to-day changes. I mean, you know, you have a plan for the morning, but that doesn't mean what it's gonna look like at the end of the day. So just trying to roll with the punches as they come. On average, I'm probably like working, 30, 35 hours a week. My kids are a little bit older and they're really busy. They have a busy lifestyle. So me jumping into the self-employed, I've given myself a little bit of opportunity there to take on these bigger projects that pay better, but then give me the flexibility to make my schedule how I need it to be. Working that 50, 55 hour a week just to get that overtime, you know, just to make it. There's easier ways to do it. And if you get your name out there and you do good quality work, you'll easily replace your income and then add to it. You know, within a few years, you should be making considerably more than you were as a W-2 employee.
And what are some of the projects that you're working on? Are they custom projects? Are they like fixing things? What does that look like?
The custom world, I'm still trying to tap into a little bit, and that's why the CNC plasma table should kind of help with that. That kind of opens up my capabilities to a lot more of, you know, signs for companies, logos, you know, custom signs they want for in their house or for a wedding or whatever that may be. It kind of goes in spurts. So right now it's been a little more custom stuff, but I do get into where I work with a few landscapers and stuff, and they have their trailers and their dump trailers, and, you know, they use them things every day and they're rough on them. So they'll break welds and they'll have to get it repaired. So those kind of are kind of a really quick, they need it right now job. So those kind of, you just take them in as you get them and try to work through them. But I would say it's a 50-50 for me right now with custom projects and repairing other things.
When you're fixing someone else's equipment, are they bringing that to you, or are you going to them? What does that look like?
So it depends on the piece of equipment. Sometimes it's not great for them to move that equipment, or maybe they just don't have time. So ideally, I'd like to do the equipment, you know, any repair or any building here. because everything's right here. All my tools, all my welders, and a chain fall lift if I got to lift heavy stuff. But I am able to go out in the world and do things there too. So there is definitely a market in the mobile welding and the mobile area, but just keep in mind you have to have different equipment for that. You're out in the elements, you know, they're going to call you when it's 2 foot of snow on the ground to come weld something, and just keep that in mind. Like, is that the work you want to do, or do you want to be in a building dry, warm, working? So just, you know, keep in mind what you want to do and where you want to go with it. Have that goal and have that thing just kind of set out to go towards.
What is one of like the longest projects that you've worked on? How long did that take, and what's one of like the quickest projects?
I'd say the longest project would be, I did a lot of work for another company, so I kind of would sublet for them. So I'd say my longest project is about a week-long project of building a truck for them with a flatbed and toolboxes and a lift gate and a crane. So building a service truck has probably been my longest project, start to finish. You know, you just start with a bare truck with no bed on it. You install the bed, you install the crane, you have to wire all that with strobes and stuff like that. So that is another thing I kind of venture into, is building service trucks as well.
For like a CNC cut that's like a minute long, that's probably one of your quicker ends.
Yeah, it can be. The design with CNC is where you really spend your time. One thing you got to think about when you're cutting stuff, you know, if you're cutting a letter out, if you're cutting an A out, let's say, the center of that A, if you don't bridge it across, if you don't connect it to the other, that center is going to fall out, and then you're just going to have kind of a big blob. The design, taking your time doing the design, is where the CNC stuff takes your time. As you do it more, you're going to get more proficient at it, but you got to make sure that you really look at that design and you really spend time with it, because if you put a sheet of steel on here and it's, you know, you spend $350 on a sheet of steel and you mess it up, well, the customer's not going to pay you for that. So, I mean, you've got to make sure you do it right. So, but you know, once you have it loaded and once you have it in there, then it's, you know, a minute, 2 minute cut and you're done.
And then how much does something like that sign right there cost?
Something like this would probably sell for $25 in raw steel form. And if you wanted to paint it, I mean, probably add about $10, $15. So, I mean, $30, $35 is probably a normal price for something like that.
And are you shipping those out, or is it local customers?
So right now it's been local customers. I'd like to get into the, you know, shipping out and doing stuff. A lot of people that have these do a lot of work on Etsy and stuff like that. And, you know, those guys are shipping multiple orders out every day. You know, it's tough for me because I have a lot of different customers. It's tough for me to find time to get to the post office and to get it shipped out. And that's, for me, time is everything right now.
So going forward, what are your future plans? How do you plan to grow? What does that look like?
So basically, in the first year of business, I've taken everything I've made and just really dove it right back into equipment and upgrading my equipment and buying other stuff. That way, it sets me up for my next growth would be in a bigger building that I could, you know, have multiple projects going on at a time and hopefully have another employee helping get some of the projects knocked out. You have to have the equipment to really start. So this here's a TIG welder. The main advantage of this is just control on thin material. You have a lot more control. You can do a lot thinner material, a lot tighter spaces, and a lot stronger of a weld. This takes a little bit to get used to. It's not, you know, MIG welding and TIG welding are a very different process. So MIG welding, the wire is coming out of the MIG welder, and that's what's actually your filler material, is this wire coming out of here. That's a big spool in the machine. A TIG welder, this is what's creating the arc, but you're feeding in the material. You're feeding in a filler rod. So it takes a little more practice because you got to feed it in at the right time. You got to really pay attention to the puddle, and when the material gets soft, to really add the filler rod. So I would say this is a lot harder to learn, but take your time and learn it. It will pay off in the end if you know how to TIG weld.
And how much does something like this cost?
This one comes from Lincoln. They were running a deal on them for a little bit. I don't think they're doing that now, but I think this one runs about $2,200. Now, that being said, you have to have 100% argon for it. So that tank will cost you about $300 or $400. And of course, you've got to have a welding helmet to protect yourself. So I would say all in to start out TIG welding in this form, in a Lincoln, you're gonna probably be about $3,000 to start up. There are a lot of cheaper versions out there that I wouldn't say are necessarily bad. I would just say that maybe the warranty and the longevity of the machine is probably not there. So I went with Lincoln because it's a trusted brand. It's been around for a really long time. And the welding company that I buy all my supplies from supports them very well. If there's ever an issue, they take care of it right away. So to me, that meant more.
Where did you learn to weld, and do you have to go to school to weld? Do you need licenses? How does that work?
It depends on the type of work you're doing, whether you need to be a certified welder or not. I have not jumped into that yet because I'm not doing any structural welding or anything like that. Most stuff I'm doing is like intercooler piping or just aluminum, custom built things for different cars, stuff like that. So I don't really need to be certified in that. Where I learned how to do it, I went to school when I was younger, and then I kind of quit using it I'd say about 2 years ago. I was like, you know what, I really miss doing that. And so I kind of took it up, and I had to relearn it, and it took time. And I still got a lot to learn. It's not something you're just gonna go in and be really good at right away. It really takes some time. I mean, there are some people out there that are just extremely good, and they've had years and years of experience.
What are some other equipments that you think are necessary for welding or having a business like this?
I would say you definitely need to have a good air compressor, and you're gonna need grinders, basic hand tools. Your welding helmet's a huge one. A nice fabrication table, something that you can lay stuff out on. It's nice to have something like that. Something to lift heavy objects is nice. We have an I-beam in the barn that we can use. Also, you can get away with a cherry picker, something like that. Just have something to lift heavy stuff, because if you're gonna get into welding, chances are you're gonna get into heavy things.
So can you tell us a little bit about the CNC?
Yeah, the CNC plasma table is nothing more than just the CNC table itself is running wherever you tell it to. So when you create an image, you move that into a CAD program, and it gives it what they call as a G code. The computer will put out a G code, and it's really long, and it's just a bunch of numbers, really tough to understand. But the computer knows the machine knows how to recognize that. The computer will tell it the pattern, the code, where to go, and then it will tell it when to fire the plasma cutter itself, which will essentially cut out what you ask it to cut out.
And how much does something like this cost?
There are a lot of versions out there now. There's like a Langmar that they make that's pretty plug and play. Those are you can get like a 2 foot by 4 foot for about $4,000 to start. You still need to get a plasma cutter, and you're still gonna need just miscellaneous things. So I would say you could start out with a really small table for about $4,000 to $5,000 to get started. This table here is it's a 4x8. It's actually a little bit bigger than that, but it'll accept a 4x8 sheet of steel. So this table new is about $10,000. I purchased this one used. Like I said before, don't be afraid to buy used equipment. It's okay. It's most of the time it just has been neglected a little bit. You put a little time in it, and you're gonna have a really great running machine. Took me about a month to get this thing really just dialed in to be able to cut. Now I'm focusing on just driving for that work.
Is there any other materials that you can cut with this machine?
So you can cut steel and aluminum with this machine. I know there are different attachments for different machines that you can do, like scribing, different things like that. But I think majority of these are just made for steel and aluminum.
So can you tell us what this project is that you made?
Yeah, so this is called a smudge pot. This is something that a friend showed me. What this does is you CNC plasma cut all the parts out. You gotta bend a few, and then you weld it all together. This is a tank down here, and what it holds and what it burns is diesel fuel, used motor oil, any kind of oil it will burn, and it just generates a ton of heat. I mean, it's all contained here. All the fire stays up high. So I would say that it's a very efficient way to heat outdoors, your fire pit, something like that. It's super efficient. You can close down the fire if you need to. There's just kind of a little trap door there that'll kind of regulate it down. It's just a really neat, kind of cool fire pit. And these chimneys, these can be designed however you want them. Being a Michigan football fan, that's what I did to start with, but you can put your name, your company logo, you can put anything you want can be cut out of this. And they are interchangeable too. So if you bought one and later on this got worn out or you wanted to change the design, put something else, we could just cut another chimney and you could bolt it right back on your base.
And how much would something like this cost?
So this would retail probably about $5.50. It just really depends on how intricate the chimney gets, how many little cuts and stuff are in there. That's really where the time comes in to design it. But usually they all average about $5.50. Phase machine, so you have to do a phase converter unless you have 3-phase. And then you'll see this start up. It's kind of slow, but once that gets rolling, this is a pretty cool machine. So like, instead of sitting at the drill press and drilling out holes, you can set this right here. You can see it just punches the hole. And there are different size dies for that. So we can do up to a 5/8 hole and a 1/2 inch piece of steel. So you can do some really thick steel as well. Over there, it'll cut angle iron, flat stock. It'll shear this off. So just cuts it that quick. So when you're doing fabrication, time is just your essence. Like, you need that time. So to be able to hurry up and just chop this with ease. I mean, it'll just sit there and cut it over and over and over. So this is a really cool old piece of equipment.
How old is it?
I don't honestly know. I gotta say it was probably made in the 60s, but you talk about expenses and you talk about that stuff, right? So you find this on Marketplace and you're like, all right, it's $800. It's really cool. Like, I need this. It's gonna be great. And then you're like, oh, it's 3-phase. So now I need a phase converter. Well, phase converter, those are anywhere from $500 to $1,000. Then you got to have an electrician come and wire it all up for you. So just to get this up and running after I bought it was another $1,000. So it's just be careful with the equipment that you're buying. Make sure you have the electricity to power it. You have the means to lift it and move it and operate it.
You said that one sheet of steel is about $350. How many projects can you get out of that?
So it depends on your thickness of the steel. 350 would be quite a bit thicker steel. Most signs like this is 16 gauge. So I can buy a sheet of this 16 gauge for about, I want to say, $150. And I could probably get 20 of those signs out of it. Just guessing. That's where your money comes in, is the repetitive over and over and over. Once you find something that sells, the one avenue I think we're gonna try next is like football signs for local kids that you can do their name and their number in and have their logo. And I think that would be a really cool seller. So you gotta have a little bit of capital, I guess, to buy some material and be able to cut stuff out and put it up in hopes to sell, because it really just takes that one thing to really click that everybody wants, and then, you know, it'll take off. But I'd save a lot of scraps. You know, when there's a project left over, save that scrap and really just try stuff. You know, it doesn't hurt to cut a little thing out and post it up for sale, and maybe you get a hit on it, maybe you don't. And if you don't, you only have a couple dollars in it. It's not the end of the world.
I mean, you could just grab a squeegee and a mop bucket and go to town doing storefronts, but I learned very quickly with the area that we're in Southwest Michigan, there's a lot of tall homes, and I'm not much of a ladder guy. Other than the initial squeegees and just basic window cleaning equipment, very quickly, within about 6 months, I invested in what's called WaterFed, which is reverse osmosis, 3, 4, 5 stage filter system that filters water through, makes it super, super pure, and you can actually clean glass with it. So that was the initial big investment, but it paid itself off within a month, 2 months. So
Can you share how much it costs?
So my initial investment on my first machine was about, I'd say, $2,500, and that's with the poles, everything to kind of get started. I learned quickly that that can only get you so far, so I kind of had to upgrade throughout the last few years.
How many years ago did you start?
2018, so 5. I think it's 5 this year, yeah.
And did you start with a van?
No, I actually started, so me and my wife at the time owned an Envoy. I was working on the back of my Envoy, had a magnet, you know, decal on there. It's a completely different logo. It was just super, super basic. Started the business on Facebook, and I kind of let that take it, and word of mouth travels very quickly. And I went from the Envoy to a truck to a different truck, and I learned trucks I can't compartmentalize with trucks with all my equipment. Stuff gets beat up very easily. So bought a ProMaster City van and outgrew that one pretty quickly with the last upgrade I did with my equipment, and I just got a Transit 250 in the last month.
Can you talk about your day-to-day operations, what like your week looks like?
I am solo owner operator, so everything is me. My wife helps me when she can, and she's very willing, but we have three littles under 6 at home, so it's hard to get her, and answer phones and stuff. So really, I mean, weekends, I try not to work too many weekends, but I end up doing it because of the calls. But I do 3 or 4 jobs a day, and come home and spend that's about 7 hours. Come home, spend another couple hours returning calls, returning voicemails, returning emails, and my voicemail is usually literally set up saying I will call you back by the end of the day, because I mean, I try to answer the phones when I can, but depending on what I'm doing, it's very difficult, safety wise and stuff like that, with how high I am or whatever I'm doing. But answering calls, I mean, what a lot of home-based service businesses know, you got to answer the phone. So I try to work around that in different ways. And then Sundays kind of catch up, and then I start it all over again. And being in Michigan, it's very seasonal. I'm working on that. I've added different services that I'm starting to offer.
Can you talk about any of the tools that you would recommend?
If you get into window cleaning, I mean, pure water, you can't go wrong. I swear by it. There's a lot of old school guys out there that won't touch it, but if you know what you're doing, if you know how to use it, this thing will save you tons of time, save you, it'll keep you safe on the ground. I clean buildings up to 4 or 5 stories, and I use these poles. So these poles are telescoping, so they can move up and down, and this is the brush that I scrub the window with. The water comes out of the pole itself. So that's a good carbon fiber, Kevlar. I have a few of the different poles. This is where I pump the water out of. I used to have to take this machine out of every house that I would go to. I'm primarily residential, and hook it up to their water spigot. I don't know what kind of water I'm getting. I don't know what kind of filters my, harshness that they're going to take. So now I have one fill up spot. I fill up 100 gallons of water. And for me, now I can just whip it out and turn it on, and I can clean windows wherever I am.
You said that one of your expenses monthly is filters. How much does a filter cost?
So the RO and the DI filters, I'd say they're probably the most expensive. So the RO is, I'd say, $300 to $400, and really that's not monthly, that's probably yearly. The DI, it's all depending on how harsh the water is that you're using. You could go through all of your filters in a month if you are really, really high TDS, which is just the total dissolved solids in the water. But mine, being in Michigan, we're around 300 to 400 parts per million. So, as long as you may be using city water, not well, you can keep your filters at a pretty good bay point. The other 2 filters is a paper and carbon filter, and those are, I don't know, I spend like maybe 60, 70 bucks for 100 of them. This is kind of where I keep all my traditional tools. These are all my pack outs, and in here I just have all my different brush heads that I use depending on the severity of the window itself. All my soaps, I use steel wool on windows, 0000 quad steel wool. Clean it with Dawn. Got my footies, which is a must for residentials. And here's my Crazy Larry. Shout out to Crazy Larry. That's the concentrate. So really, it's it's pretty basic in here. You don't need a ton to to really get going. This took 5 years to accumulate. Just these pack outs alone, or as any guy would know, a gal would know, they use them. They're very expensive as well, but they are worth their weight in gold in regards to organization.
Can you talk about the services that you offer?
So other than window cleaning, I advertise for soft house washing and pressure washing, which I started doing when I first started, but it just got to be too much and the glass went over. So I subbed that out to a trusted contractor in my area. I don't have nearly as much as that as I do the window cleaning. And being in Michigan, since we are very seasonal with windows, I have started doing high interior dusting, which I just ordered a new vacuum for that. And basically it's the same type of idea for the water fed with the pole system, except you're extracting dust and you're using a vacuum with a camera on the top, so you can kind of see what you're doing. With a lot of these restaurants and a lot of everything with exposed ductwork everywhere, it's a pretty good. I've done a lot of salons already, a lot of tanning salons, hair salons, restaurants, and stuff like that. So I'm trying to do that in the wintertime to kind of offset the windows.
Do you currently have any employees, and if so, do you plan on having any in the future?
So I do not have any employees. It's just me right now. It's a back and forth game in my head, because when you start adding people, you kind of trade headaches for headaches. weeks. I do a lot of work right now. I probably work 11 hours a day, but at the same time, I'm controlling everything. And right now, that's kind of where I want to be because I'm still trying to build the image online, build the trust. So when I get to a point where I'm just absolutely insane and I'm booked, I stay about 6 weeks booked out all summer, spring, summer, fall, and I have a list that's ever growing. So when I get to a point where I can't control that anymore, or people are saying, no, we're not going to wait for you, that's when I'll start adding employees.
Do you have any plans on expanding or growing? What does that look like in the future?
So like I said, I'm going to start slowly like I've done with everything. I'll add a helper. Within a season, he'll become full-time. The goal is to replace yourself. So I'll just replace myself. I'll go on the back end, maybe get 2 more guys. I don't want to be a fish window cleaning. I don't want to be a shine window cleaning. Those are the 2 big ones in my area. I feel like the quality goes downhill a little bit whenever you start just adding a ton of people very quickly and you can't take the time to train them appropriately. So I'm going to do it slow. And my goal is by the time I'm 40, which is in about 8 years, that I will be off the glass, they call it, and on the back end doing all of the invoicing, the people-to-people stuff, and I'll have a crew of maybe 2 crews of 2 going out on the field.
What are your biggest expenses right now?
So probably my biggest expenses other than taxes, clearly. I mean, honestly, I'm having trouble finding write-offs, to be honest, just because once you kind of get everything in this field, you have it. And it's there, it's not going anywhere as long as you take care of it. So probably my biggest expense would be insurance. There's a little bit of liability, with kind of doing what you do depending on if you get lift work. I don't do any rappelling down from buildings. A lot of window cleaners will do that. But I think, the biggest expense, I just got this bad boy because I upgraded all my system inside. So I think, other than the van, probably just the big water fed equipment and just figuring out you always want to do it faster. You always want to do it quicker because that means more money, more profit, more, bigger lines. So yeah, so probably just the equipment.
Can you talk about how much it would be to clean a residential house?
Yeah, so my average ticket right now I think is sitting at about $350. I average, last year my goal was $500 a day. I average now, I'm getting to a point because I've upgraded the systems in this van and do it the way I do it, I'm averaging closer to $800 to $1,000 a day. You have a point, I think last year I just hit like 100 to 105,000, and that's in 8 months. I didn't do a whole ton in my winter. I'm slowly working on that, but I think this year I'll be closer to probably 140, 145. So it's just, I'm gonna hit a ceiling where it's gonna be like, it's gonna break, it's gonna stop, and then I gotta multiply. So
do you have to have any permits or anything to be able to do commercial?
They not really residential. A lot of questions I'll get asked: are you insured? Are you bonded? I'm not bonded. I don't believe I need to be bonded, and I've never lost a job because I'm not bonded. I'm 100% insured. 100% got insurance. That's one thing you don't skip over if you want to be taken seriously. I haven't really had massive contracts yet. That's something that's going to come down the line. It's really hard to juggle those big type of multiple building apartments, stuff like that with one guy. And I've turned down a couple things because of that. I make my image look bigger than I appear online, so I don't miss out on those because I can pull different subs friends that I know around the area in Southwest Michigan that do what I do that can help me. So yeah, really no permits. The poles that you use, it kind of depends on what you're doing. This is a residential pole. It only goes up to about 35 feet. This pole over here, this is a Gardner Ultimate. This goes about 55, 60 feet. This I'll do 3-4 stories just with this pole. It's very lightweight, maybe weighs 6-7 pounds I think, and does a great job. So
Do you know how much will those cost?
they're very expensive. This one cost me, I want to say probably $2,500 to $3,000, and then this one I think was only probably about $800 or $900. I'm trying to remember. It's been a couple years, so I could be off. Everything's risen since then, so there's no telling how much they are now. And then these brushes are there's different brushes that you can buy that are a little more, harsher than other brushes. This is a Gardner Taper Tech, so it's got, kind of tapered edges to help with the scrubbing process. And you can just Frankenstein it up, put whatever you want on it. And this is kind of how I have this set up now. So this is the hose. This is your water fed hose, thin, very flexible. This is what pushes the water out of the brush, and it kind of goes in just like so. Comes out the bottom.
How long of hose would you recommend having?
So depends on what kind of big of a pump you have. I have a Tucker pump on that system, so it pushes about 1.3 gallons per minute. I wouldn't go more than 75 to 100 feet of your water fed hose. I have about 150 feet of this 3/8 inch diameter hose. This is what's coming out of my tanks there, full of water. So I turn it on. This is from Tucker Systems. It's a fill and go. So I basically purify my water down at a remote location, and it fills up my tank so I can just go anywhere with it, and I can control the output and how much I'm using via the controller right there. I usually have a remote. It's MIA right now, but and it comes out my brush over there. So basically you scrub the glass and you let the pole and the weight of the pole kind of on the brush do the work. You scrub it, you agitate it, it's getting all the dirt off, and then you can come back and just rinse it down, and you're rinsing all that off, so when it dries spot free, because there's no dirt in my water. And when after you scrub and rinse, there's no dirt on the windows, so when it dries, there's nothing for that water to cling to make spotting. On really tall glass, I can't remember what they're called, but I have a specific set of glasses that reflect up so I can look forward and see up and not crank my neck. Because when you're doing 2, 3, 4, 500 of these, it gets pretty repetitive. But honestly, if you're serious about window cleaning and you want to make it a career or a business, don't sleep on the water fed, because this will save you time. This is what will allow you to push towards your goals, especially being a one-man operation, and this will change your business.
How long does the average house take?
It depends on the number. I've gotten to a point where like I can see the total of the house and I can multiply that by hours. So I shoot for $100 an hour. If it's a $350 house, I'm sitting between 2 and 3 hours that'll take me, and that's how I do my scheduling. It takes a while for you to get, it took me 5 years to get to that point where it's to a point where I'm almost to a T every time, because I know my speed and I know how quickly I can knock stuff out. Assuming nothing, stuff happens, equipment failure, there's something on the glass you can't get off, they want hard water removal. A lot of folks will just add stuff while you're up there type of situation. So you got to factor that stuff in too. But so technically with this kind of pole, I would not use it for a lower one. You can take these off and only have light, but given the fact we're just showing, I'm gonna just clean it. So you want to get to the edge. Always be aware of your seals and your oxidization that may happen on the glass. When you rinse, kind of go to the top. The frames look gnarly, you can do the frames as well. Just make sure you rinse incredibly well, or else you'll get spotting. Probably within 5 years, I've only had about 4 callbacks, and they weren't really my fault. But customer's always right, and you just kind of, you always want that good review. You always want the good word, so you kind of do whatever they ask to a point. Number one reason people try water fed and they can't get it right away, or they're having trouble with it, is because their water isn't as pure as it should be. It should always be between 0 and 10 parts per million. If anything higher than that, it's going to leave spotting. A lot of guys will say, this didn't work, I'm selling my machine. They didn't really give it a chance. So just make sure that it's like a checklist. Always make sure your water is where it's at. Make sure you're rinsing the window well, and you'll get perfect results every time. And I'm talking maintenance cleans. There's construction cleans, there's hard water removal, there's a few things that go into it, but maintenance cleans on any typical house, water fed, get you 100% every time. So a lot of guys will have big, crazy belts. I'm very simplistic. I have my scrubber, my squeegee. You don't know when you're gonna get some bird poop or whatever, so I always carry these quad steel wools. As long as the window is not tinted, you can scrub glass with this and it will not scratch it. I carry that with me, and then spread it with Dawn. And I'll have a couple rags and stuff on me as well. And then I actually extract the pure water. I use the pure water, and that's all I use for my indoor use as well. It just helps with, if you miss anything, the likelihood of, as long as you got the dirt off, less spotting, it just helps really well. And it behaves different. The water behaves differently on the glass, which is really cool. So I just soak this down. So really you just kind of come through here, soap it up. Dawn is by far the best scrubber I think I've found. And you just scrub it, and you just come through. It's very sticky glass. That's the good thing about using the pure water. Even if you got a little skips or anything, that the pure water is your friend. I mean, does it make a ton of difference? No, but it'll help. And usually I'll clean the frames, wipe all the frames off. There's different packages that I do too on residential. If they want just outside, if they want interior outside, which is a big one. Track cleaning, which is if this window rose up, it's what's in there. It's by far the lengthiest part of the job of residential. Some people want it, some people don't. Some guys won't even clean anything but all of it. So it's all or nothing for some guys. I like people having options. So I just let them pick, and I'll itemize the estimate so they can see the cost breakdown of everything, and they can kind of pick what they want to do. And then I schedule them once they're accepted. Another big part that I think too, a lot of guys underestimate, and I fought it for 2 or 3 years, is get a CRM, a customer relationship management system. It helped me being a solo guy tremendously. It automates so many things, my reviews, automates the invoices, sends reminders out to people, where I was doing all of that by myself. And it just got to be a ton. So Don't underestimate the CRM. I use Markate. They're pretty cheap, but they're really basic. There's Jobber, Responsibit out there. It's really kind of pick whatever you want. Always wipe the squeegee in between panes or else you can get some streaking. It takes a while too to perfect the fanning method is what they call it. And that's the method I'm using here. Once you get it, you'll never go back to they call straight pulls. It just does a better job, reduces the risk of smears or misses because you never take the squeegee off the glass. So every client I try to leave a lasting impression. These sticky notes with my logo on them, you never know where they're gonna go. I do that with my card. Old people love it.
How did you learn how to window wash, and how did you learn about like all the equipment and stuff?
I did a little bit of it at Western Michigan University. That's where I worked for 10 years while starting the business up for the last 2 or 3 years of that, but they really didn't go into depth and kind of how the water fed worked, how the purification process worked and everything. So it was really just a lot of YouTube, a lot of guys, specifically in my Into the Flow group. What's up, guys? On Facebook, they've been a tremendous help. Got a few mentors on there that really direct me in the right direction, but it's really a lot of self-taught, learning what works, what doesn't work. The fanning method that I shown, that took probably 2 years to master, and I still, now I'm doing it with a pole, which is another beast in itself. So it's really a lot of self-taught, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of people just guiding in the right direction. What's one of the smallest and cheapest jobs that you've done? And then what's one of the biggest and most expensive jobs that you've done? So I think cheapest is a lot of storefront work. That's we call them bucket bobs. Will go in and go in for $5-10 to clean like these 5 or 10 panes of glass. So I think a lot of my storefronts are done pretty cheaply. It's just recurring work that you can have year round that you don't have to go out and vouch for. So, and then I think the most expensive job I've done is graphic packaging downtown Kalamazoo. It's about 4 or 5 stories up. That's definitely one of my bigger ones. It took all day long. Me and another guy, he helped me with it, and it's a lot of shoulder work, a lot of pull work, but that was probably around $2,000, and then the cheapest one was probably, I don't know, $15. So it kind of varies on kind of what you want to go into and how much you want to make. What's the furthest you've gone to do a job? So I do a lot in South Haven. I'll get condo associations. I'm trying to get deeper in the condo associations, so I'll have condo associations call me from Richland, Battle Creek. I do some up in South Haven. I've been down to Coloma. She's one of my normal clients. She has not a large house, but she has a copious amount of windows. So I think South Haven over by the lake, up near Grand Haven, and then kind of down and around.
We'll get some paint trays out first. 9-inch paint tray. I've since graduated to the 18-inch.
And like, what's the difference? Why do you need 9 or the 18?
So I actually lied. This is 14-inch. I was going to say it's twice as wide. You're going to cover way more ground rolling. Here are the 14-inch rollers. This is what I've been living by for the last few years. I keep 3 of them in rotation. I've basically retired the 9-inch, but in like a small bathroom, it's nice to be handy. And you can just toss these little roller naps. Next would obviously be the brushes. So this is my favorite brush right here. It's a Purdy XL medium stiff, 2.5 inches. I don't actually love this tip, so the XL Glide is my favorite end.
What's the difference in the tips?
It's just a little thinner, and I'm just so used to this thickness. In terms of how many brushes I'm actually going through, you can see a 5 here, written in Sharpie. A couple years ago, I like to track things, and I was curious if I was burning through brushes. A lot of times I'll really painstakingly spend time to clean them, and I found I was really not going through that many brushes. So I think in like 2 years, I've really only gone through like 6 or so brushes. So not a huge expense by any means. A good brush is like 15, 17 bucks.
How long do like these guys last here?
It's hard to say. I've had those quite a while, many months. It depends like the rotation you have going, but if you're in a home, they have 3 colors rather than rinsing it out each time. It's nice to have one designated for each. The frames are a little expensive, and then these roller trays, so you keep that fresh and then you just throw in a new tray. These are at least like $5, but they get thicker and thicker, and then you almost don't need the base once the tray has a skeleton to itself.
And how long those last about?
Kind of similar to the brush. It depends if you're getting paint out or if you're letting it gunk up in areas, but again, you can stretch those weeks.
When you're painting with some of these brushes and you're doing different colors, do you have to wash them completely out, or do you usually do new brushes with new colors?
Yeah, always new brushes with new colors, even if you're switching sheens. So like a ceiling is going to be flat paint, walls are typically matte or satin. And even if the whites appear similar, having that brush interact with the different sheens is going to really throw it off. So you're always starting fresh. I don't wash the rollers on spot. I'll usually do those in like a shower tub. And like I said, the smaller one is cheap. I'll just throw that away after each use.
You mentioned different paints. Could you tell us a little bit about those paints and why they're different?
First up here, and I'm a Sherwin guy. You can even see, I think the logo's on my pants here. Get my discount at Sherwin, keep bringing them business. My go-to is their Duration product. And so this is wall paint. People these days are typically either doing matte finish or satin, depending on how shiny you want. And the real selling point for Duration is washability. People want to be able to scrub their walls. Up next, also from Sherwin, this is my go-to trim paint. Sheen for that is typically either satin or semi-gloss, so a bit shinier than walls are going to be. And I'm rarely getting this tinted as opposed to wall paint. You might want a crazy red accent wall, lots of grays lately, creams, but this is just extra white right out of the can. Shake it up, you're good to go. See if we can avoid a spill here. Not using this quite as much, but this is oil primer. So if you have like a heavy stain on the wall or if you have raw wood, this is what I'll be using. For oil primer, you're gonna wanna make sure to have your Breaking Bad respirator good to go. With this, if I'm rolling, I'll wear the respirator because lots of paint is in the air, but brushing, I'm usually not as diligent with the respirator. Last, almost forgot, my ceiling paint, buying that in bulk. This is a 5-gallon bucket here, also from Sherwin. CHB, I believe it stands for Chicago House Builders, and that's just flat white paint like I referenced earlier. So no shine on the ceilings, so you don't have like the lawnmower track marks.
And like how many buckets are you going through on one job?
Not all that much, even a large interior. So I just had, I think it was around a $4,000 project. It took me 6 or 7 days. I only used 4 gallons of wall paint. There was no ceiling paint involved, and maybe half a gallon of trim paint, so didn't put too much of a dent in the budget. I get this stuff for $50 a gallon. List price might be closer to 70, so lots of profit on that project.
Can you tell us a little bit about the projects that you're doing and where they might be?
So initially, when I said I wanted to get outside, I started painting outside, staining lots of decks, but now I'm entirely an indoor dog, if you'll say. Lots of interior walls, ceilings, trim, doors. I tend to avoid cabinets, but anywhere from like a single bedroom to a full interior.
So tell us a little bit about the ladders you use and also what is behind you there.
So I yanked out my main 2 ladders that I basically live on, and this is my pile of drop cloths. This is maybe 7 or so drop cloths. Little baby one on top. They're typically 3 feet by 12 or 15 feet. This is a mini one that I'm often making like a pouring station out of, like a little central spot where I'll keep all my equipment. Everyone recognizes a generic step stool. The big 20-footer is up top here, but the exciting ladder, which customers actually get a kick out of, sometimes I'll roll in and I'll be doing a giant foyer, and this is the only ladder I show up with. They're like, you actually think you're gonna get up there with a 4-foot tall ladder? And then we go into transformer mode. And so right now we're only at half the height.
Oh boy.
And we got a few more feet because I only did the one side here.
Can we test on this wall over here?
Sure.
I want to see how high it goes.
I'm not sure what this actually reaches. It might say on the side here.
We're gonna get on top of the building.
So we are officially maxed out.
Officially maxed out here. Nice.
For you, Ryan.
Let's see how high I can get. This is sketchy. Yeah, I think I'm good with right here.
It feels especially flimsy, but once you get familiar with it, you don't question it. I'll show you how to scale it.
All right. Thing's wobbly.
You're down. I bought my dad one of these because he was getting on the roof with a dinky ladder that like barely reached. And as smart as he is, he's a biostatistician. He refuses to use the ladder because I think he says it's too complicated to operate. I'm like, I'm a dumb painter, and there's just a few options with it. You can figure it out. So Dad, if you ever see this, use the ladder I got you.
Perfect for storage. Perfect height.
Yeah, it's nice, especially if you don't have a ladder rack. You can throw this inside most vehicles, and they make shorter versions, which obviously are only going to extend so far.
What's one of the craziest tools that you have in here?
Craziest tools. Let's see. Let's go around to the side door actually here.
All right.
Not super crazy, but unique. A lot of people probably wouldn't realize what it is. So this is back from like probably my first year of painting. So
I have no clue what that is.
good 15 years old. This is a masking tool. So especially when you're doing lots of spraying, it's dispersing the brown masking paper and then the blue painter's tape all together. So you can do like a whole 10-foot, 20-foot stretch of this. And then you're gonna apply it wherever you don't want paint. And so on a spraying project, you can gift wrap the whole house. You're specifically, I probably did this in reverse. I'd want to mask off the window. Right. And then we'd blast and spray here, undo the gift, and you've got a sharp line.
All right, now that we've seen the tools, you have the van. Why the van? Tell us about the van.
Sure. So this is a 2012 Dodge Ram cargo van. It's basically like a soccer mom van, except for it's only a 2-seater. I just closed it, but I'm gonna yank it back open. It's all caged out inside. If you want to get a close up here, all the windows are protected, so lots of junk inside, but to me it's organized.
And for starting out, what do you need in terms of like licenses, or what do you need to start?
I remember doing that research early on, and I really don't even remember the conclusions I came to. In terms of like, is there a painter's license? We're in Michigan. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know. I'm an established LLC, so a limited liability company. That's just like a $25 expense a year. And then more importantly, I have liability insurance. So if somehow I were to burn a house down I'm working on, I'm covered up to $2 million, and that's a $500 yearly charge. So it's good to cover yourself with that. But those are the only two license type things I have. I don't know if I've been shortcutting things or what, but haven't run into any issues yet. You don't need to pull permits like for construction. I'm just changing the color of walls.
With the expenses that you mentioned, what are other expenses that you have monthly or weekly or however you calculate it?
My website is fairly limited, but it's got the contact page. People are either emailing me, texting, or voicemail. I say voicemail because I'm so bad at actually, like when I'm on the job, I don't answer the phone at all. Rather than driving out to a project, have people text you or email you pictures of the rooms. Early on, I would drive like 30, 40 minutes in a direction, and I quickly realized I'm not interested in this project. I'm wasting my time and their time. So you can really shortcut things if on that initial interaction with the text, they'll forward you over a couple pictures.
So you mentioned you're going to their place and driving there, so you're giving estimates?
Yeah, and I used to dread this part of the job, but I've come to appreciate it's arguably the most important part of the job in terms of business. In terms of the money revenue you're actually going to bring in, those figures that you establish up front, that's super important. I've never wanted to quote a project at $1,000 and then partway into it go, I'm going to need $2,000 for this amount of work. Typically, if anything, I'll drop down. We used 1 less gallon of paint. People are excited to get that discount, but estimates are very important. Getting that preview is huge, but also seeing in person because cameras can be deceiving.
How far are you traveling for your jobs, and what's like the closest ones and what's the furthest ones?
Anymore, I keep a very tight service radius, typically no more than like 15 miles in any direction. Years ago, I would drive an hour for a project. I grew up an hour south of here, and so when I was younger, I would stay with my parents sometimes for a week, work on a project in my hometown, and then come back home after it was done. But anymore, I'm selective on work, and it's nice to be picky and more exclusive. Do I want the project? Is it nearby? And then I go from there.
What has been the most beneficial thing to growing your business?
Not surprising here again, just reiterating ads, actually being willing to spend money on marketing. For the longest time, I was hesitant to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars, but I realized if I'm sitting at home for 2 weeks off, that's a lot of money that I'm missing out on. If I would dial up my ads, specifically Google ads, to $50 a day, it's worth making $500, spending $50 to make that $500 a day. So don't be afraid to spend money on ads.
What do you think the average job brings in revenue?
Average job is kind of tricky. Kind of like I mentioned, if it's just a single bedroom, that's going to really skew the numbers compared to like a 2-week full interior. But maybe the best example would be, we'll say a 2-bedroom project, like an average 2 medium-sized bedrooms. Lately, I've been quoting that at around $1,000 total. That'll probably be $100 worth of paint for expenses, and then I'm making $900 worth of profit. If it's just walls, the figures could be a little lower. If it's ceiling and trim as well, it could be a bit higher.
And how long does that take you to finish?
2 bedrooms would be 2 days or less. Sometimes I'll try to push a long day, but I'm at least going to need to show up a second day for like a day and a half total.
Do you have any competitors, or how do you deal with competitors if you do have them?
Oh yeah, there's tons of painters in town. If you go to any Sherwin painting store or any painting store in general, they'll usually have a space on the wall with like 24 business cards up there. I used to wedge mine in there, and sometimes other competitors, you're like, I just stocked this yesterday. How are my cards already gone? And then we were showing the yard sign for marketing. Sometimes you put 20 signs out and the next day there's only a few around. I don't pull other yard signs, but some people are more desperate for work. I feel like there's a mutual respect thing where you know the grind, so you don't try to do in your competitors. I feel like the largest company in town is CertaPro, I believe is their name, but I don't know many other painters. I'm a solo flying individual here.
So can you tell us a little bit about expanding your operation or trying to grow it and how you might do that?
I'm actually planning to do quite the opposite. So for years now, I should have hired employees. 10 years solo, doing some of those large exteriors years ago. They're not one-man projects, but I just never wanted to be in charge of others and have to coordinate, get the phone call. Sorry, boss, can't make it today. I don't like to rely on others, so I know that I've handled every corner of the project. I've kind of hinted to it, but I'm trying to transition into another career, so I'm really scaling down the painting hours. And the art degree that I got years ago, I'm pursuing that more now with a couple different online shops selling my artwork.
So at what point would you know that you need to hire an employee or do something different to expand?
I'd say just take a serious look at your schedule. If you're really stretching yourself, if you have more weeks that are like 50 or 60 hour work weeks, and you could have a helper, even if they're not a skilled painter, someone putting down the blue painter tape, maybe doing some spackling, patching on the walls. Just, I'd say, gauge your schedule, and it depends on who you can find as a helper. That's partly why I've strayed. I had high standards, and if you keep them limited to smaller tasks, it can be helpful.
Have you had any negative experiences when it comes to your painting business?
Oh yeah, if you've been painting long enough, you're definitely going to have at least a few stories to tell. All of my projects have gone great in terms of completion and customers being happy with projects. Like I said, I only take on projects I know that I can complete successfully. Probably the most negative experience I had, it was many years ago now, when I would still subcontract work from other companies. I was working at the mall nearby, and the guy just was not paying us. And so he's like, next week I can pay you, next week. I ended up being shorted $4,000, and I tried to go after him and force him to pay me, but since the project fell through and the mall didn't pay, just weeks of my life were stolen from me. A less depressing, funnier story would be working in a great house. There were some flooring guys there. It was gonna be maybe my second to last day finishing. It was a big project, and the woman gets home. She's pretty uptight, as may often be the case in a nice, expensive house. And she pulls me aside because we already had a rapport going. And she's like, I just caught the flooring guy doing drugs on the very floor he's installing. And then my reaction, I was like, oh, don't panic too much. That's not uncommon in skilled trades. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing drugs in your home. But I was like, he's almost done, let him finish, and then you can report it to the boss. But she was freaked out. Got to get those stimulants to finish the project, apparently.
So what does your painting business help you learn about yourself?
So a lot of time by myself, so a lot of time to think. I've learned that I'm a very disciplined worker, super hard worker. You can push through grit. It's tiring work, especially on larger projects. Lots of time with the earbuds in. I have them in my pocket right now. That all the tools we showed, the earbuds are the most important tool to get you through the workday. But moving away from painting towards art, so I've been selling lots of prints online. And if you'd like to take a look, we can check out my art studio next, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Let's go take a look.